pool for Adult Swim.
This video is sponsored by Factor 75. Welcome back. We're sorry to have kept you waiting. In case you somehow got here on accident, this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, you're going to want to go ahead and do that first. So, the Jersey Shore was on top of its game. There wasn't a show on this network that had gotten these kind of ratings in years. And it was one of the biggest shows on television in general. And MTV was working this cast to the bone. When they weren't filming this show, or one of the soon-to-be spin-offs, they were doing some kind of press, whether it be for the show or just for their own personal brands, trying to make what everyone predicted to just be 15 minutes of fame last a little bit longer. And MTV wanted to switch it up. Enough of seeing these people thrive in their own habitat in New Jersey. Let's do something wildly different. Let's send them to the motherland. Kinda. We're going to Italy! It was announced, of course, ahead of filming that the cast would be shooting in Florence, which was very controversial. On top of the already going, oh, we're so smart, Americans are so dumb thing the Europeans have going on, you've got an added layer of Italian versus Italian-American beef. And on top of all of that, MTV wasn't exactly sending what most would consider to be our best and brightest, you know? Like if you announced in 2011 that Jersey Shore would be filming their next season in Wyoming, there still would have been pushback. People who were outside of the millions of people watching the show really didn't like them. On one hand, the show did a good bit for tourism in Seaside Heights, but just how far was Florence willing to go? The mayor panicked and was super worried about Florence looking like a crazy party city when it's really a place better known for its rich history and culture. But at the same time, you don't really want the Jersey Shore cast hanging around your very important historical stuff, So they weren't allowed to film in historic buildings, or film drinking in public. Ideally, in the minds of the Italian government, they would film with authentic Italian people in authentic cultural settings. We'll see about that. But before we get into the fun, a quick word from today's sponsor, Factor 75. So you might know that I'm something of a chef, but one of my worst habits is that if I know I'm cooking for dinner, I get too lazy to prepare myself food for the rest of the day, so I'll either eat junk for lunch or I'll just skip it altogether, which is not good. But luckily, my friends at Factor send meals that are pre-prepared, ready to eat in 2 minutes, which is perfect for busybodies like me. The recipes are made by real chefs and include delicious, nutritious meals that are fresh and never frozen. They also have a wide array of vegan, vegetarian, and keto options so that you can have what you need on hand, ready to go. Factor helps reduce the amount of small runs I make to the grocery store for salads or simple lunches, and it's so easy to keep my fridge stocked with healthy smoothies, juices, and snacks for all the snack lovers out there like myself. And you guys know I've worked with HelloFresh before, and Factor is actually now owned by HelloFresh, which gives me a massive array of meal plans to choose from, whether I want to cook or I just want to throw together something quick and nutritious. And now we can enjoy both at a discount. Just head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code MELA50 for 50% off your first Factor box. Once again, that's Factor75.com, code MELA50 for 50% off your first Factor box. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to it. And now I'm going to hand it over to me in a different shirt. Take it away, girl. Okay, back to the show. So to keep you up with the cast schedule, they filmed Season 1 in summer '09, Season 2 was filmed spring 2010, Season 3 was filmed that summer, so up until now they've been almost non-stop filming. This season was filmed in summer 2011. And where our show was once a reality show about 8 young Guidos vacationing the Jersey Shore, it's now become more of a reality show about those 8 people who starred in the first season of the Jersey Shore. But I cannot stress this enough. Right now in our timeline, this show was red hot. They could not go wrong with this cast and a camera crew. Season 4. Episode 1, Going to Italia. The gang gathers back up to go to Italy. In the year since we last saw them, Jenny and Roger are still together. Snooki started dating someone that we actually know, the forgettable smush from the group who came to get that girl with her uncle.
I meet this little Mario brother.
He's important now, so this is Gianni. I didn't want to say his name before, so it would still have a little element of surprise in case you recognized it. So she's with him. He's a little scared about the whole Vinny thing, but he trusts her. There's a whole bunch of shenanigans as the girls travel together. Everything keeps going wrong. They're almost missing buses. They have a layover in Dusseldorf. Jenny's bronzer explodes in her bag. The boys, meanwhile, are having a very seamless, easy-breezy travel experience. They love this edit of, like, the girls in chaos and the boys just chilling. In the way we kind of got a lot of Snooki focus for the girls, we get a way bigger helping of Vinny than in previous seasons. And just here at the start of the season, he feels a lot more central than someone like Mike, who, along with Pauly, of course, was sort of our main guy for the first couple seasons. Vinny's got a new beard he's excited about. He's also ready to get out to Italy and really connect with his roots, perfect his Italian. For him, this trip is super personal. When they arrive to the place they're staying at, it's just massive. It's got this gigantic staircase you have to scale every time you enter. And I'm thinking this is the same idea as with their previous houses. If you've noticed, they usually all have pretty long walks to get into the front door. Particularly Miami had an entire courtyard you had to walk through before you can get into the house. This was so the production could easily intercept people coming into the house to sign waivers and things of that nature. Just a little fun fact for you. It's no Ritz, but it's certainly grand. They actually couldn't find a big enough residence to film in that had an outdoor space, so they converted this old bank into a place that looked like a house. They had to retrofit showers and bathrooms, and they added a fake patio made out of scaffolding, but that's TV magic. Quacks like a patio, it must be a patio. They of course pick their rooms. Mike and Ron share a room as to not tempt Ron into getting back together with Sam. Vinny and Pauly share a room with 3 beds, assuming the 3rd bed would go to Dina, and when the girls finally arrive, it does. And Sam, Snooki, and Jenny take the remaining room. They spend their first night having a toast and taking in the beautiful scenery of Florence.
Oh, wow, he's cute.
He looks like a metro.
Yeah, that's my type.
The next day, their first official day in Italy, it's time to translate GTL. The first obstacle, driving stick. Snooki and Pauly are the only people who know how to drive stick, so they will have to drive the entire season. Put a pin in that. Our drama gets freshly whipped up for us right from the start. We're not wasting any time. And tell me, if you had to guess, put everything on the line for this question, who is stirring the pot first this season? Did you guess Mike? Because it's Mike. He's asking the girls all kinds of questions about Snooki's relationship status, which has them very suspicious. And he tells them he doesn't think Snooki's gonna be taken here in Italy. We find out what he means by this later when he tells Ron his little secret. He and Snooki have smushed recently while she was dating Gianni. We go to our first Italian nightclub and it's a blast. They're having trouble talking to girls, so Vinny's translating.
Good luck.
Sam says,
No more tears for Sammy, sweetheart.
Ron's dancing, everyone's excited to have him single and having fun again. Mike is creeping on Snooki all night. And everyone has this attitude that's kind of like, Mike, leave her alone. He's so in her face, like he's clearly trying to make out with her. It's so weird. Everyone is repulsed. We do get a makeout between Dina and Pauly, which Dina has been waiting in the wings for forever. She finally gets her shot. It is not a good watch. And that's it for our season 4 premiere. It dominates in its Thursday slot, does better than the last season's premiere. 10 out of 10. Episode 2, Like More Than a Friend. Pauly and Dina finally hooked up, so now Snooki's rooting for Pauly to sleep with her. It's clear Pauly isn't that into Dina, but he doesn't want to hurt her feelings, so he uses the same line Vinny used last season. He just actually cares about her, so he can't. And here and for the rest of the season, Dina is uncomfortably persistent with Pauly about sleeping with her. It's definitely weird, and I do not like it. General rule, if you have to coerce someone into sleeping with you, you probably just should not sleep with them. For our first Italian Sunday dinner, Dina and Sam are cooking, and the editors are setting them up.
What is this? Tell me these are strawberries. These are like weird strawberries. Are these good like this?
Yeah, those are like raspberries.
They kind of give up on cooking and decide to just do it later, so they leave and go eat somewhere else. The guys get home, find no one there, and the dishwasher overflowing, so they just start cooking, which makes things a little tense. Snooki talks to Gianni, who's already annoyed with her for not calling him, and Mike is just hanging around, sniveling around, waiting to pounce. Single Ronnie talks on the phone to a lady from back home named Hannah. And when I say single Ronnie's back, he's back. That night in the club is like Miami all over again, except Sam is there.
I'm the pimp daddy Mac of this whole place.
He's belligerently drunk, Sam's wasted and storms out. She's upset about him, of course, even though they're broken up. And I feel like Sam was expecting that they were going to get back together once they were on the show, but he's pretty much moved on as far as we can tell. But he is still obsessed with rubbing it all in her face, which makes me also think that he's not over it. And Vinny lets Ron know that he cannot take another summer of constant fighting. Mike brings home some girl, they smush, I think, I don't know, he says they did a blow pop or something. But Snooki's asking everyone if she's hotter than that girl and tells Mike that all the girls he brings home are ugly, and it's like, you're not doing a great job of convincing me that you don't like Mike. Like, as much as I don't want it to be true either, I think a pretty sizable portion of Jersey Shore fans are in denial about this entire Snooki and Mike situation. Like, you and I probably wouldn't hook up with Mike if we were her. But it seems kinda obvious that she does like him. Mike's obviously still a creep for trying to hit on her while she has a boyfriend, especially because he's doing it simply so that he can say that he did. And in situations like this where Mike is very clearly flirting with her, she's always like, we're just friends, Mike. Stop saying that crazy stuff. What the heck? But he's dead serious. If you were thinking, what this party needs is more Sam and Ron drama, fear not. Vinny speaks his mind to Sam at lunch the same way he did to Ron last night and tells her that she and Ron are just unbearable when they're drunk and they ruin everyone's life. In fewer words, Sam gets defensive and is like, I'm just trying to figure my shit out. Mike chimes in and shares his own funny little anecdote.
Last night, he's like, watch what happens, bro. It's like I got like 5 girls coming to the house right now.
Dina tries to tell everyone about how last night, when they were all going to bed, Mike tried to hop into her bed and cuddle with her. But later, Pauly brings it up to Mike, and it's super awkward. And people love Pauly, but they also love to forget that he was a shit stirrer just like the rest of them. Mike confronts her, it's this whole stupid thing, and Pauly ends up buying her a bracelet to apologize for stirring shit. And this, with Mike's near bean spillage a moment ago, is shaping up pretty nicely already into this season's Mike Sucks plotline. They go out again that night, and Ron avoids talking to Sam while they're drinking because he knows it'll turn into a fight. And back at the house, she's all over him, but he really doesn't want to do this again. Episode 3, Twinning. Ron and Snooki are like best friends now. They go eat and go to the gym and talk about his relationship with Sam. There's this old pervert that works at the gym. It seems like Sam only tries to talk to Ron when they're drinking. He keeps avoiding it and says they'll talk tomorrow. Dina's rooming with Vinny and Pauly because they think she's a cool, fun, chill chick. Until she brings a guy home. She smushes in the room the same way Vinny and Pauly always do, and this is a big problem for little Vinny. Meanwhile, Mike's been hooking up with this girl who has a twin, and they become our stalkers this season. She keeps calling the house. Ron and Pauly both pretend to be Mike on the phone. Ron calls her and tells her to come over so she can ambush him when he gets home, but it ends up working out for Mike in the end. Ron and Sam go on a date and are back together. It was all for nothing.
How romantic all that is.
I am a little nervous, I am. Just because I don't know what to expect. It's like my chance to really prove it.
That night at the club, Snooki tries to orchestrate a threesome between Mike and the twins. But Dina ends up doing the robbery on Mike and taking one of the twins. The one who said she was a virgin.
No, you're not.
Her sister's not. She is.
I don't believe that because she's like really hot. But you know, she's a virgin. All right, you're a virgin. And the other one, she's like a big whore.
But then later, Vinny does the robbery on Dina and hooks up with her too. And Dina like shows up and takes her out of Vinny's bed. She's also completely plastered, so this is a weird watch. So now that Mike sucks again, Ron's ready to unleash something. He decides that as get back for exposing him to Sam by way of confirming the note, he'll tell Jenny and Sam about Mike and Snooki's hookup. Which, this is definitely, obviously, way more of a blow-up for Snooki than it ever would be for Mike. But, if I'm giving Ron the most benefit of the doubt that I could possibly lend him, and since he says he's ratting Mike out, it's possible that he believed that this was a lie and thought that he was snitching on Mike for lying about hooking up with Snooki and cheating on Gianni. Because when Mike originally tells him, he says in confessionals that he doesn't believe it at all because Snooki's in a happy relationship. So it is possible that that could be what he was doing since she was supposed to be his best friend. Either which way, Jenny says she's gonna go tell Snooki right now. And she does.
Mike told people about what you guys did.
We didn't do anything.
No, he told everyone.
Snooki confronts Mike, who denies saying anything of the sort. Next episode. Episode 4, Crime and Punishment. I don't know what it is about this season, but these episodes start feeling dense. Like, some of these are long hours. Also, I'm just gonna say it. An hour is kind of crazy for a reality show. Like, let's just keep it at a nice tight 30, please. The next day, the guys all go to lunch, where we finally hear Mike's version of the story of he and Snooki's hookup. So, Mike's friend, who they call the Unit, was smushing with Ryder in a shared hotel room. This excited Snooki, who you-know-whatted Mike's you-know-what. At the girls' lunch, they talk about Dina's hookup with the twin and philosophize on bi-curiosity. Jenny buys a comically large hat, and at home, the guys have started taunting Dina for hooking up with the girl. Lesbians are only sexy when they're rejecting Vinny, goddammit! Things are very tense in the house. Everyone knows that it's only a matter of time until Snooki and Mike go face-to-face about this, or, even worse, Gianni finds out. Snooki tries to get ahead of it, calling Gianni and telling him her side of the story, which is that Unit smushed Ryder in a shared hotel room. Mike got excited and tried to make a move on Nicole. She rejected him. He got pissy. I've already told you my opinion, but it is also plausible because we've seen how Mike gets when he gets no play. So since she rejected him, now he's trying to lie on her to sabotage her relationship with Gianni. I do think that part is true. He is definitely trying to ruin her relationship with Gianni. I give her that because he doesn't give a damn about Gianni. I don't care what he says. Gianni just tells her that he loves her and he misses her and he'll be there in Italy in 3 weeks. Tensions continue to run high at Sunday dinner. The girls are being silly and get dressed in their Sunday best and walk around saying they're from Yonkers. The boys do their absolute best to ensure that the vibe remains awkward at all costs. Mike lightens the mood by directing everyone's attention to Dina's hookup. She says that though she was bi-curious, she decided she likes men and that's that on that, so she didn't even hook up with her. Later, Vinny and Pauly bring the prank war international and move Dina's bed out to the living room. Something to note about Dina right now is that this is her second season on the show. When she was taping with them last season, she was still an unknown. This really is the first season that she's been famous. So what everyone else dealt with years ago and is already acclimated to for the most part, she's only just starting to understand. Add to that they're in another country, all of them are having major culture shock, all the locals hate them. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but for the most part, the only people that they've been hanging out with have been other tourists in Italy. Add to all of that Dina has an anxiety disorder. She's having a really hard time right now. So she starts crying and having a panic attack because, similar to last season, she just feels like they never stop picking on her and hazing her. Vinny has a fushigi. Jenny tries to explain to them how Dina feels and why she's upset, but they think she's just overreacting and she's not the same fun, chill, cool girl that she used to be. And they gaslight her into apologizing for being upset. And she says she doesn't feel like herself. It's so weird, and I'm sorry would have sufficed. The next day, Jenny hangs out with Ron and talks to him to make sure he really understands what he's doing getting back with Sam, because she knows he's also been talking to that other girl, Hannah. And she knows that Sam doesn't know, and if she did know, it would be bad. They go shopping and Ron buys a bunch of stuff for Sam, and they're practically in love again. Jenny and Snooki go out to dinner together. They talk about Johnny coming to town. Sam and Ron go out on a romantic dinner. They all go out to the club. And while watching and taking notes on this episode, I left the room to go get a stack of Post-it notes, and by the time I'd come back, Ron was storming out of the club. And does it even matter why he's mad anymore? Mike and Pauly strike out once again. They are not in Kansas anymore. These old tricks just don't work out here. But luckily for Mike, he has a girl who he's always calling over in times of crisis. You know, a person that you'd call a stalker. Ron and Sam talk after whatever the hell happened in the club, and it really doesn't matter what they're fighting about because they have that same argument that they always have. You don't get to check me. I put up with so much shit from you, Sam. We just can't be together. That's what you've done. It's you. You did this. Sam says she should be allowed to make mistakes if he can make mistakes, like telling Mike he's got 5 girls coming to the house. Sam says she knows that when he's drunk, he just says things he doesn't mean, so she just brushes it off. So why can't he do the same? But you know Ron, he can't just go, yeah, I said that. It was wrong. I apologize for saying that. He goes, Mike said that? Ron starts to rampage like he does. He's screaming, waking people up. He's shoving Sam and telling her to tell Mike what she just told him. Mike says he has no memory of such events. Ron starts to tear Mike's bed apart and flips his bed on its side. Side note, Jenny looks gorgeous in the confessionals right now. And as the credits roll, Mike starts to go legit apeshit, like the definition of apeshit. You look up apeshit in the dictionary and it's a picture of him doing this. There's spit flying everywhere. He's jumping up and down. Ron picks him up. End of episode. Episode 5, and The Wall won. This is a big one. It was taken out of its usual Thursday night time slot and moved to Sunday so that it would air ahead of the VMA pre-show and spill its many, many Jersey Shore viewers into the award show. And this is by far the most shocking thing I've ever seen on this show. My jaw was completely dropped the entire time. Mike is screaming and telling Ron to fight him. he rams his head into the wall. And this isn't America, folks. That's not sheetrock. That is solid concrete. He lays motionless on the ground. And they've used this clip, I swear, in like the very first episode, and I think they wanted us to think that he was dead. He pops back up and they get into a full-on fight.
Don't do nothing with your relationship, tough guy.
Stop it!
Three security guards run in and break it up. It's honestly really tragic. The girls are screaming and crying in fear. It's honestly, it feels like watching two big dogs get in a fight and nearly kill each other. Ron's still pissed at Sam.
Ron!
Shut the up, stop talking to me.
And Jenny gives her some advice to just not talk to him because she's the reason he's always getting so mad.
Stop yelling at me! Just stop yelling at me!
Pauly recaps the fight.
You don't know how to punch. Like, Ronnie punched Mike and didn't do anything. Mike knocked himself out. I think Mike tried to commit suicide by hitting his head against the wall because he was sick of dealing with the Ron and Sam bull.
It's all very dramatic still. An ambulance comes to get Mike and Pauly goes with him to the hospital. Jenny's trying to talk to Ron and legit begging Sam to leave them alone while she screams and cries. There's just so much going on right now. Ron and Sam talks and he admits that one of those little things that he usually says that he throws in her face that she assumes he doesn't mean was true, and he did actually call a girl, which we know as Hannah.
Goodbye.
She tells him she doesn't want anything to do with him anymore, and he acts sad like he wasn't throwing this in her face and saying, "Please leave," like an hour ago.
Really?
Calling girls.
I'm the only one. You've been calling girls
Yeah, every
since
night.
here?
You ain't get out of my face.
He's in her room in the dark trying to manipulate her into forgiving him and even contemplates going home. Eventually he gives up and cleans Mike's stuff up that he destroyed, to be nice. A florist calls about a delivery for a Nookie and a Sally Jenny from Roger and Johnny back home. When Mike finally gets back from the hospital, he says he has a light concussion and a neck sprain. Ron apologizes to him, redirecting all of his anger towards Sam. What does he have to be mad about? Great question. Mike says in confessionals that no one won the fight, so it's still on and popping any time. He spends most of this episode being sad because no one's really checking on him or worrying about him after his injury, which makes him cry. He's just walking around in his neck brace being sad, and everyone thinks it's kind of funny. I think here I should tell you that Mike was withdrawing from opiates this season, hence some of his rather unhinged behavior. So when I watched this season knowing this information, it seemed like he might have been milking this injury because that would be the only way he was going to get any painkillers in a foreign country. Sam returns the stuff Ron bought her the other day by leaving it on his bed, and he dramatically throws it all away right in front of her. Mike admits to Ron that the reason he slammed his head into the wall is because a couple years ago he got into a fight with some crazy huge guy just like Ron, and he put his head through a wall to look crazy and get out of the fight. Genius. But his plan didn't work this time because the wall was made of cement. And despite the way they're getting along and talking, Ron still doesn't trust Mike. The girls go out and eat together. Sam's on this, self-improvement journey. The guys go out, well, not Mike, obviously, so they start calling themselves RVP. It's nearly a single Ronnie night, but then suddenly they get stepped to by the hardest guys in all of Florence. Pauly's white boy wasted, so he bucks back a little bit, but then he pulls him away. Back home, Snooki and Mike make nice for now because she's a little freaked out about thinking he was going to die, and the last thing they said to each other was arguing. We get a club scene set to Cobra Starship. Ronnie comes to and suddenly realizes that he doesn't want to act like Vinny and Pauly, so he goes back home. And I don't want a single beat of this to get lost in my retelling, so I just want you to listen to what he says.
Let me be an adult and show her you're the ass.
You cannot write this shit. You cannot write this shit. He buys roses from a street vendor. When he gives them to Sam, she's confused at first, but still smitten by the gesture. He, however, is already throwing the gesture in her face before he's even completed the gesture. And because he's got this weird attitude, she thinks this is some sick, twisted thing he's doing where he brought some girl home and bought the flowers for that girl, and he's like, "Here, hold these while I go smush," or something like that. Which, that alone speaks volumes. He storms off, she goes after him to try to thank him, but he takes the flowers and says,
Find somebody better than me.
and throws them away. Which, to be clear, is the only reason he bought these flowers in the first place. Sam is as confused as all of us, and the episode ends. Episode 6, Fist Bump Push-Ups Chapstick. The girls go to lunch and talk about how scary the fight was. Sam says she thinks Mike might be depressed, but Jenny thinks he's just milking it. On their way home, a priest tells Snooki to cover up when passing the church.
My church, they'd be like, oh, nice outfit. God likes my tits. God made my tits.
At home, Mike and Ron have a good little talk because Ron just can't stand to see him looking so sad and pathetic anymore. Snooki calls Gianni and tells him he's the best guy she's ever met, and she wants to
suck your butt.
He gets embarrassed and tells her to stop saying stupid things. She's being stupid. She vents to Ron saying that Gianni's often embarrassed of things she does that are sort of Snooki-isms, like saying she can't wait to hump him and yelling shots at the bar. And Ron tells her that she can't change herself for a partner. Take it from him. And encourages her to keep on doing it. Fight the man. Another crisis our cast is having out here in Italy is not having a good barbershop to go to. So Dina opens the beauty parlor up and gives Pauly a new do. With this, he creates a new character, Joey, the ultimate Guido. Vinny asks for a Joey makeover and becomes Louie.
FPC, if it's pump push-ups dipstick.
Ron asks Sam to talk, and full disclosure, I fast-forwarded through this. I need peace too. Basically what you need to know is that it goes from a conversation about Ron talking to Hannah, which he lies about by the way, to Sam saying she hopes that she can change for the better, and they're apparently back together. Who cares? Moving on. Jenny and Ron go out to eat together and talk about the Snooki Gianni situation, and they agree that Gianni should have known what he was getting himself into dating Snooki, and he can't try to change her now. That night at the club, Ron is dancing his ass off and hurts himself, but just can't stop dancing. Drugs. Some girl starts a fight with Snooki and dumps a drink on Dina, so they tag team her, but somewhere in the scuffle, they accidentally start fighting each other. When Nicole gets home, she calls Gianni, who's annoyed at how drunk she is and doesn't really trust her. Ronnie takes the phone and tries to talk some sense into him, but he's not trying to hear that. Everyone in the house hates Gianni now, and they just all want to protect Snooki and stop him from trying to change her. This upsets Snooki because she wants them to like her boyfriend and she loves him, so them attacking him feels like an attack on her, even when Jenny tries to talk to her. Not to mention that he and Roger will be there in only a week. And now that Snooki's got a boyfriend, our lonely woman in search of a Guido arc is left for Dina. She invites over some Italian waiters she met, and they're hanging out when she notices a hickey on his neck. He tells her that it's just a playful love bite that he got from a girl who's like his sister. Granted, his English is broken, and it sounds to Dina like he's saying his sister gave him a hickey, so she sends him packing. Episode 7, Meatball Mashup. Everyone is still in protect Snooki from Gianni mode, which is pissing Snooki off. When she gets home, she calls him and he's confused about last night. Snooki tells him that everyone in the house thinks he's mean to her. He says he never told Ron fuck you, and they're all nuts and he's not coming. The girls tell Snooki to just forget about him, and it just so happens to be the perfect time because they're all going on a trip to Retelling. They pack up their million suitcases into and onto their little Fiats and head to the beach. As soon as they get there, the meatballs talk to the very first person they see about Kuka and Vagine, and some random comes up to them and tells them they need to stop being so vulgar. They go drunk shopping, and Jen and Sam get embarrassed and annoyed with the meatballs, so they decide to ditch them. Dina and Nicole find a place with loud music and get their party on by themselves. They run into the guys who happen to show up just in time to see Dina dance her bikini bottoms off. They're both so wasted, no one thinks they're going to be able to make it to their dinner reservations tonight. They don't. They don't show up until everyone is finished eating, and they bring drinks with them to the restaurant. On the way to the club, Dina can't even sit up in the car and is slurring bad. And now they're starting to get a little annoyed with everyone trying to rein them in. Like, Jenny and Sam are going into mom mode. And this whole episode is supposed to show us how, much of a nuisance the meatballs are to everyone else. Which is a funny turn to take after everyone was getting on Gianni for being annoyed with drunk Snooki and being like, "That's just how she is, you idiot." Dina accidentally puts the goodies on display, dancing in front of what she thought to be an opaque wall. And eventually they've got no one left but each other, so they just start making out. They make out the whole way home, and everyone thinks they're gonna smush. And they go to bed together. The next morning, Ron starts trying to be Pauly.
Oh, yeah, we're in Retelling, yeah.
And at breakfast, the guys are singing a bit of a different tune than yesterday, and now they think maybe Gianni has a reason for getting so mad at Nicole when she drinks. And take it from Ronnie. Cheating is cheating is cheating. I'm sure he'd know something about that. And they all take the groundbreaking stance that if their girlfriend was making out with another girl, they'd break up with her. Jenny buys another big hat. Snooki and Dina wake up and wonder what happened, saying they both blacked out sometime after leaving the restaurant. Neither of them even remember going out. Jenny and Sam demonstrate how they were like in bed, and Jenny says she thinks she saw Dina getting her bin mucked. Snooki says she doesn't think Gianni will be mad, and when she calls him and tells him, he isn't. Later on, Snooki and Dina are driving and get into a wreck with a cop car, and Snooki doesn't have her driver's license with her, and then an ambulance shows up to take away one of the cops that was in the car. It's edited really choppy, but they both get arrested as far as we can see, and I'm guessing there was a lot of fourth wall breaking with the police talking to the camera crew. But the episode ends with us seeing them both in police custody. Episode 8, Where's My Boyfriend? The roommates show up with Snooki's license and everything is fine. No one gets arrested. Back home, Jenny gets some bad news. Roger's request for time off at work was rejected, so he won't be able to come visit after all. Jenny is distraught. This whole trip's already been so hard for all of them. And something that we don't see on camera is that before they went to Italy, Jenny's grandmother died, and then shortly afterwards she suffered a miscarriage. And in the season of the show, she was using a lot of Xanax to cope with her anxiety, so that's why we don't really see much of her this season. But everyone rallies around her and tries to cheer her up with a fun night out. Back home, Snooki's talking to Gianni when there's a ring at the doorbell. It's Mike's stalker, Brittany. Snooki lets her in and tells her to hide in Mike's bed, with the plan being to ambush him and ruin his night when he brings home a girl. When Mike gets home and finds her, he ends up just kicking out the girl he brought home because he knows Brittany is DTF, so cool. Then Gianni finally arrives in Italy. Snooki's super nervous and excited and ready to see him and smush his face off. And Mike is really paranoid and for some reason thinks that he and Gianni have beef and that Gianni's gonna try to fight him. He spends the entire night telling everyone about this imaginary beef, watching all his sides. He's just very paranoid. Everyone else, meanwhile, is paranoid that Mike is about to tell Gianni about the thing and blow Snooki's whole life up. They hit the second club of the night and Mike is fully convinced he's in the midst of a dramatic secret beef. He tells Snooki that if it comes down to it, he's gonna fight Gianni, and she is confused, and so am I. Snooki's dancing like she always does, and Gianni tells her to stop and that she's dancing like a whore. He leaves, telling her she's embarrassing him. Jenny tries to chase after him, but he's fully gone. Snooki runs out of the club trying to catch him, falling over on the cobblestone road. Ronnie tries to help chase him down. Jenny tries to help chase him down. She catches Snooki and tries to calm her down to no avail. They get into a screaming match.
I'm trying to protect her.
Snooki's absolutely distraught. When Ronnie catches Johnny, he tells him that he met Snooki in Seaside acting this exact same way, but Johnny says he just needs to give up and go home. Nicole walks home crying and Dina's falling over trying to comfort her. Every one of them is breaking their ankles on these cobblestone roads. Snooki sleeps in the smush room and cries. Jenny runs around for a really long time still looking for Johnny but never finds him. And everyone's back on Snooki's side now, despite what they may have said in Rachoni. The guys burn some burgers and Johnny finally returns. He makes a beeline straight to the bathroom and ignores Nicole. When he finally talks to her, he tells her that she's single and quickly exits, grabbing his suitcase and catching a cab. The end. Episode 9, 3 Men and a Snooki. Now that the night has passed and she's given her time to have her emotions, Jenny's ready to be pissed at Snooki for fighting with her last night. Since she's got no one, Nicole goes out alone to drink, dance, and vent to strangers, and she's just walking around sad and depressed, on and off crying. Jenny decides maybe she's going through enough and decides to apologize to her for not being there for her. She manages to get Johnny on the phone for her, where he tells Snooki that he took a train to Rome and his parents bought him a plane ticket back home. He seems to want to stay at this point, but can't because the ticket is paid for. He gets back on the phone with Jenny and reveals that he actually isn't in Rome yet, he's still at the train station. So Jenny gets Snooki down there ASAP and he apologizes, gives her a hug and a kiss, and then leaves Italy, cutting his trip majorly short. Later, Dina confides in Jenny at the club that before she came to Italy, she had sex and thinks she might be pregnant. She's missed a period and is having all the usual symptoms, so they drop everything and head straight to a pharmacy to get a pregnancy test. She takes it and finds out she's not pregnant, which is relieving since she's been smoking and drinking all summer. Snooki talks to Johnny again about what went down that night. He says she was acting like an animal and brings up the fact that she also made out with Dina when she was super drunk and maybe the problem is just her drinking. Snooki's offended and says he's taking needlessly low blows and she doesn't want to see him anymore, hanging up on him. Feeling homesick, she gets the idea to bring Karma to Florence. Pauly DJs and they all dress up in their best Guido attire and have Karma in the living room. As the night progresses, Mike continues being super flirty with Snooki. He keeps telling her he could take better care of her than Gianni, which reminds him of his imaginary beef he made up in his head. And he tells her about how the other guys were telling him to kick Gianni in the head.
All the guys were like, kick him when you get out the car.
Which upsets Snooki because now she's like, everyone has had it out for me and Gianni's relationship since the beginning. Snooki sits down with Ron, who explains what happened in sensible language for once, and he says that he doesn't want to argue with her. Who is this person? Once Snooki's asleep, everyone sits Mike down to ask, why did you do that? He tries to brush it off, saying it was an offhanded drunk comment. Then out of the blue just gets really vulgar and grosses everyone out. Dana's trying to make a move on Pauly, so Snooki joins in and cuddles with Vinny. Pauly tries kicking Dina out so he can go to bed alone because he doesn't want to smush, and Snooki and Vinny smush. Again. Episode 10, Damage is Done. In the morning, Jenny tells Snooki about Mike talking shit last night. Snooki denies, causing an altercation between she and Mike. In the confessional, he makes it clear that if Snooki doesn't play nice, he won't be afraid to unleash his ammo. Moments later, he decides that actually he wants to teach her a lesson now. So he calls up Unit for a little refresher on the events of that night. Snooki and Jenny go out for mimosas, where Snooki says she only remembers cuddling with Vinny last night. More on this later. Mike's going around now, 1, figuring out ways to torment Snooki with this information, and 2, trying to find out who told her about his shit-talking in the first place. He finds Ron and tells a lie that he called Unit and gave him Gianni's number so he could call him up himself and tell him what happened. He does this in an attempt to find out who would go and tell Snooki, which really isn't a very sound experiment for finding out who told her something that you told everyone. Like, Dina and Sam come in and he tells them and they're like, okay, we're gonna tell Snooki this, you realize that, right? And he's like, yeah, go tell her. He reveals only to Pauly that it was all actually a lie and a test, and Pauly thinks it's hilarious because he's messy. And he also lies to Pauly about the series of events, saying that before they left the house, Ron had already told Sam, when in actuality, Sam was in the room while he was running his mouth. After work, by the way, their job at this pizza shop this season, so inconsequential. I forget it's even happening because they don't even film it. But after work, Sam tells Snooki what Mike told her. Snooki flips out and goes straight into attack mode, throwing everything she can pick up at him. He tries to deliver his little punchline and reveal that it was all a big prank, but she's too busy throwing shit at him to hear any of that, so he loses it.
Cause I didn't make no phone.
Then why would you go around saying
Why
that?
are you talking? Stay out of it.
He thinks his little scheme was very profound and revealing about his roommates, when really it was just him telling Sam and Dina and them hearing and going, we're gonna tell Nicole, and he's like, don't you see, Nicole, how they all switch up? Take a break from this for Vinny and the rest of the guys to go visit Vinny's mom's family in Sicily. And this is what he's been looking forward to this whole time, seeing all his relatives, of which there are very many. They look at old photos and kick soccer balls at Mike. Meanwhile, the girls go on a wine tour in Tuscany. They have a real sommelier there and everything, but they just aren't feeling it. They're bored and want to just drink their wine and be left alone. Tensions rise during dinner when Snooki vents about the Mike situation, and Jenny says she needs to stop lying to everyone in the house. And she tells her that if she really loved Gianni, she wouldn't have done what she did last night with Vinny. So she needs to grow up and own up to what she did.
I did that. The only
It
reason
doesn't
why I did
matter.
that
That is not an excuse.
I wanted to be done with him.
Well, you are now.
Snooki thinks Jenny is being a terrible friend and does not want to hear anything that she's saying. The boys have a spiritual moment in Sicily, and the girls ride home together quietly. When they get home, Snooki and Jenny hug it out, and everything is fine. Snooki's dad calls her and breaks the devastating news that Gianni has changed his Facebook relationship status to single. So she calls Gianni to chew him out, and also to tell him about and apologize to him for hooking up with Vinny. Ballsy. He tells her they're done, and when he sees Vinny, he's dead, and hangs up. She calls him back to beg for his forgiveness, and he asks for all the gory details. She tells him it wasn't a full-on smush, it was just a second base job. And when the guys get back from Sicily, Snooki sits down with Vinny and asks for a play-by-play. He can't believe she doesn't remember and breaks it all down for her. And what you need to know is that they did smush. So now, Snooki has to call Gianni again and tell him the actual truth. Episode 11, Situation Problems. Continuing Snooki's call with Gianni, he asks why only after getting a second chance she would tell him this. She says she only just found out from Vinny, she had no idea, she has no recollection, she was so drunk, and she feels so bad, but he needs to deal with this to be with her. He says he's sick to his stomach and he cannot call her his girlfriend at this time, and hangs up. Dina's still persistently hitting on Pauly and he can't take it anymore, but he doesn't want her feelings to be hurt. In an attempt to stop her from hitting on him, he's desperate to bring someone home from the club. But his game doesn't work in Italy, and the only people who will talk to him are weird. At home, he gives her a laundry list of reasons why he can't sleep with her. And he truly shouldn't need any reasons. This is ridiculous. He should just be able to say, I don't want to. But in her minor defense, he literally tells her here that if they weren't friends, he would
knock the dust off that just saying.
Sing it with me, everyone. It's the end of the season, so we all hate Mike. Pauly needs to clean his clippers and finds that someone left their toothbrush sitting out on the counter, and he thinks that anyone that gross kind of deserves it, so he uses it to clean his clippers. Later, Mike uses the toothbrush and doesn't notice anything. It's their last Saturday out in Florence and the boys are wearing their Sunday best. Pauly introduces to us
Guido and Guidet problem.
It is a crazy night at the club. All the people are screaming at them. They start chanting piece of shit in Italian. They all almost get in a fight. They get escorted out by a huge group of bouncers, and it's then and only then that Mike starts getting all tough with everyone. And they may be done with the night, but our meatballs sure aren't. They head out to the next spot, a club called Central Park, I think. They're trying to dance, and the disgusting men are swarming around them like river rats. And when they get rejected, they start being mean and aggressive and throwing things at them, even the bartender. So Snooki goes apeshit crazy and starts knocking over all the bartender's big glasses, and they literally get dragged out of the club. And we're continuing with that plot of Jenny and Sam versus drunk annoying meatballs. And these two are starting to bond over this dynamic that they have of being like, I'm not playing mom tonight, and being so ew and over the meatballs. When Dina and Snooki get home, they're steaming mad, and Jenny, of all people, has the nerve to tell them to just let it go, shake it off, like water off a duck's back, which I just find hilarious. The next day, the meatballs wake up and keep the party going. Jenny gets pissed with Dina because she's been asking her to do chores, but she never does them. Our plots converge here when Mike decides to chime in and say that Dina never does anything.
Be a woman! Do something!
And they get into a huge fight where Dina drops her most iconic line of all time.
Don't make me go low blow. I will. I will.
You want to call me fat Mike? Because that's what you call every woman. I can lose weight for free. You need about 10 grand to fix your fucking face.
During their Sunday dinner prepared by the unlikely duo of Jenny and Sam, they reflect on the summer and agree that they loved it, but they need to get back home. They applaud Ron and Sam for not spending the entire summer fighting. There's some stupid little drama about calling rooms in the shore house, like different rooms that they didn't have before, because Sam wants the room that Vinny previously had because she doesn't want a room with Mike again, which prompts Mike to say that he probably won't even go to the shore this summer anyway. Mike also gets locked in the bathroom and Ron contemplates leaving him in there. And then at the club he gets into a fight with someone and literally no one has his back, so he goes home and has a Joker moment.
Who's gonna be the bad guy? Situation? No problem.
Episode 12, Ciao Italia. Mike's all depressed and lonesome and trying to be friends with Snooki again, but she doesn't want to. Ron tries to pull him aside and tell him that if he just apologizes to everyone for being a tool, they'd probably like that a lot. But he's still in his little Joker phase, so he rejects the help. And they go on a guided art history tour where Mike mopes around and separates himself from the group. At their final dinner, Mike reveals that despite all of this, he will be going to Jersey, and he buys all the girls flowers as a sort of olive branch. But they still don't trust him. They go to the club set over this song.
You are my best friends. Seriously, it's like the best night ever.
And up until the buzzer, Mike is still aggravating everyone. He gets into a fight with some kid who bumps into him. And on their final day, the only real bad vibe left is him. And trust he will be dealt with. They all prepare to head back to the shore and get back into the GTL of things, and that's it for the 4th season of Jersey Shore. Filming for season 5 started as soon as they got home from filming season 4, so in order to drive that point home, let's jump right in. Season 5, episode 1, Hurricane Situation. Everyone heads back to the shore, and they're all the happiest they've been since episode 1 of last season, but still, no one wants to room with Mike. Everyone wants their old room, but without Mike. Unfortunately for Sam, he ends up in the room with she and Ron once again. This time around, we skip unpacking and get straight to partying. They run around the boardwalk and go say hi to Danny, who invites them out to get them drinks tomorrow night at Captain Hook's. We're gonna start noticing a lot more of these production orchestrated events as opposed to them just casually deciding to go somewhere. Just like with Laguna Beach and the Hills, once the cast of the show is famous, it's really hard to recreate the environment of that first season again, because everywhere they go, especially on the Seaside Heights boardwalk, is gonna have people mobbing them and chasing them down. First thing in the morning, our cast is waving their flag, overjoyed to be back in the States where they can do all the things they love. They haven't been able to tan once since they went to Italy, so they take an emergency GTL trip. Pauly gets a little bit overzealous and gets the darkest tanning lotion and goes for the longest time, twice.
Oh yeah, tanning, yeah!
And I guess they do say absence makes the heart grow fonder because Vinny has gone full Guido now. He's got his faux hawk shaved into his head, he's tanning with the rest of them. Snooki and Jenny are missing their men, Snooki can't even get Gianni on the phone, and it gets emotional. They go out for their drinks with Danny, and the place is dead. Or so it seems. It's actually a surprise party! Roger's there, Gianni's there, everyone's parents are there, everyone's friends are there. Many tears are shed. This actually turns into a very raw and real moment. Our cast has been so homesick and in such bad shape in Italy, and they're only halfway through the filming that they're doing this summer. And this sends Vinny into a full-blown meltdown. But we lighten the mood up with his pervert Uncle Nino. Jenny's scared that having Mike and Gianni together could turn ugly. And to make make matters worse, we finally get to meet the mystery man, Unit, Mike's friend and supposed witness to Snooki S-ing Mike's D. As soon as he gets there, he starts being messy and threatening Nicole. Everyone's on edge that shit could go down at any minute. Jenny takes Unit to the side and asks him what exactly he saw, and suggests to him that maybe it was so dark that he didn't see anything. But he confirms that he saw everything. And this episode is called Hurricane Situation because that's exactly what Mike is trying to be for Snooki. He's gone full Joker and is completely out to get her. He brings Unit back home to maximize drama potential, but Snooki hides out with Johnny in the smush room. And I want you to know that Mike and Unit literally get ready for drama. Like, they get home, undress from the club, and then redress for shit stirring. But much to his dismay, he's not going to find any drama here tonight. Another friend that's in town is Ryder. She and Pauly are getting their flirt on, which is really starting to irk Dina because she's in love with him, so things get really weird. Pauly brings Ryder to bed, and Dina sits there at the foot of the bed to cockblock. When Snooki and Gianni finally emerge from the smush room the next morning, everything is pretty much fine. She apologizes to Unit for blowing up on him last night, and everyone leaves. After seeing his family last night, Vinny's feeling more homesick than ever, and he shares that all summer he's been super anxious. The way he dealt with his anxiety was just having repeated panic attacks. After doing this for so long, he feels emotionally drained, and seeing his family last night took more out of him than he had to give, leaving him in a sort of catatonic state. Ron seems to not have much sympathy for what Vinny's feeling, saying he feels this way because his mom babies him at home. And there is something to be said, probably, about Vinny's relationship with his mom, but that's nuanced and isn't a reason to dismiss his anxiety. That night, everyone but Sam and Ron go out to Aztec with the goal of lifting Vinny's spirits. Gianni's there, he's buying everyone drinks, including Mike, who relishes in his ignorance. And Nicole tells him that he needs to be ready to watch her back when it comes to Mike because he's a shady bastard with an agenda. She doesn't say that, but she should have. Pauly thinks if Vinny just gets with some girls, it'll clear his mind right up and he'll be fine. Unfortunately, the girls at Aztec tonight aren't exactly their type, so they head home early. Vinny's walking around like a zombie until he goes into full panic mode. Ron attempts to offer him some words of comfort.
You're spazzing out right now, relax.
But it just isn't helping. Episode 2, One Man Down. Vinny wants to go home and no one understands how he feels. They're trying to convince him to just go to the club and shake it off.
As a fellow anxiety haver, every single thing that these guys are saying to Vinny is like the most annoying thing that you could say to someone with anxiety, much less someone currently having a panic attack. You're just making it in your head. You should just stay. Like, you should just calm down. You're making it worse for yourself. You're doing this to yourself.
But he stays home while they all go out the next night. While they're there, Mike runs into Paula, the old fling from season 1 and on, and he just loves how long they've been doing this little dance for. On the way home, they run through torrential downpour and Gianni needs dry clothes. Snooki asks Mike, who gives him a shirt, underwear, etc. To repay him for the kind gesture, Gianni makes food for him, and Mike's just rubbing it in, again, reveling in Gianni's ignorance. The next day, Vinny's late to work and contemplates not going, but decides to make an appearance. While he's there, we get some good bits of Vinny talking about his anxiety to everyone, and this was definitely a big moment for talking about anxiety on television. It may be hard to believe, but this was definitely a bit taboo at the time. He says he was diagnosed with clinical anxiety at 16 and has dealt with it ever since, and it's really honestly nice to see Danny sitting down with him and trying to understand how he's feeling as someone who doesn't have anxiety. It's a good scene. Probably production orchestrated to be a little PSA moment, but I like it for the storyline regardless. Pauly is suffering from the aftermath of the super tan he tried to get. So when he tanned that first time with the strongest cream for the longest time, twice, he burnt his face. Then he peeled the burn, exfoliated his face, and tanned again and re-burnt the burnt skin. Now we're getting ready to make the long-awaited return to Karma.
You look really good. Would you bang me?
Bent over and sideways.
Okay.
Dina's not drinking.
Just kidding.
Snooki maybe does let her excitement get the better of her. Johnny specifically asked her not to get super drunk tonight, but she gets absolutely, as Sam would put it, abducted. Johnny's annoyed, Vinny's trying to force himself to like the club, but it's just not working. Mike runs into Paula again, and it's a pretty successful night for everyone. They all go home and get it on. There's a bit of a false alarm when the girl Pauly's with steals his diamond gold chain, but it turns out it was just a ploy to come see him again the next day. Ron tries to give Vinny some boardwalk fun to cheer him up, and he appreciates the gesture, but kindly tells him it's beyond that point, and he needs to go home and relax, and without saying it, not be on the show. And as it starts to set in for everyone that Vinny really does want to leave, the sadness starts to spread. That night, the gang isn't sure what to do. They don't want to smother him by staying home from the club, but they also don't want him to do an Irish goodbye and leave while they're gone. So they decide to leave Pauly behind to have a sincere one-on-one chat with him. So they go out for usual shenanigans, and for once in his life, Pauly has to get serious. He admits to Vinny that he has no idea how he feels and no idea how to help, and Vinny says he's going to do what's best for him, but leaving his best friend will be the hardest part.
The hardest part is leaving you, you know?
He loads into a cab and heads out, saying goodbye only to Pauly. Episode 3, Dropping Like Flies. Aztec is packed and Pauly arrives to let the gang know that Vinny is gone. Dina gets super emotional as usual, but they're all really bummed that he actually left and they're pretty convinced that he'll never come back. On a lighter note, this weekend is Mike and Pauly's birthday, so they decide that tonight is the night that they should celebrate. For the daytime, Snooki and Dina go out to have what they call a meatball day to honor Vinny's memory. And a meatball day is basically where they just get hammered all day and then rally and keep it going all night. They're having a great time, they make some friends. Snooki seems like she won't make it, but she's always surprising us. They keep the party going at Aztec where they have a dance-off. When they get home to get ready to go back out, Dina's extensions are in a knot.
Oh, dear boy.
They all go out. Mike meets up with Unit and thinks tonight might just be the night to blow shit up. Pauly meets a girl who's exactly Vinny's type, so he brings her home to honor him. Unit ends up getting in a huge fight and gets kicked out of the club, which greatly upsets Mike. At work the next day, Mike meets this girl who lets him know she's very DTF. That night at Aztec, he runs into her, but he also sees Paula, who's kind of his main thing right now, so he passes her off to Pauly. She goes home with him, but rejects him when he tries to take her to his room, so he escorts her out, and everyone's bummed for him that he gets no birthday sex. Moments later, that same girl's knocking at the door and says she's actually not ready to go home and she wants to hang out with Mike. Mike's confused and with Paula, so he talks to her for a moment and sends her on her merry way. Dina feels bad for the girl and says she was really nice.
She seems like a nice girl, though.
That's why she doesn't belong here.
Exactly.
No offense, but...
Speaking of Paula, she's been spending a lot of time hanging around the house, and Sam is starting to think that Mike might actually be catching some feelings for her. The next day is Pauly's actual birthday, and his family shows up to surprise him. They bring his barber out to give him a real back-home fresh haircut, which he loves. The guys all go out with Pauly's family to Rivoli's for a big dinner, and Mike's just got a gray cloud over his head as he sits there and watches Pauly have the best birthday ever. He walks away from the table and goes to sleep on a bench. They prank him by putting cake on his face, which only makes him sadder. When he gets home, he sees that Sam, Dina, and Nicole made Pauly a birthday cake. This makes him very angry, and he storms off. But what he doesn't know is everyone is purposely ignoring his birthday because they're planning a surprise party. But until that, the next morning, Mike and Pauly want to use the car at the same time as Nicole and Jenny. Mike gives Jenny the keys and then gets really, really angry. Then he goes off the grid. Episode 4, Free Vinny. The next morning, Mike is off the grid. Danny comes by and reminds the roommates that the deal they had was work at the Shore store and live at the house. But with Vinny gone and Jenny and Snooki being horrible employees and Mike now missing, things are going to have to change soon. So either they have to come together or there will be new roommates. This is clearly production orchestrated to make them care that Mike left / build tension for viewers that he might leave. When Mike returns to the house, they tell him what Danny said, but still won't give in when he fishes for HBDs. They try to call Vinny to convince him to come back so they won't get new roommates. Jenny rips down Danny's help wanted signs at work. And Ron and Jen agree Bad Girls Club style that if they do get new roommates, they'll just chase him out of the house. The girls all meet up at Karma for a meeting with a local strip club owner to discuss getting some dancers for their surprise birthday party. The guy's a creepy weirdo who calls himself the Wizard of Ass, and he's thinking way too explicit. But they get what they need, and the party's ready to go. The guys walk into Karma and instantly get silly strung, handcuffed to chairs, and then given lap dances, and they are having the time of their lives. Pauly meets this girl who he brings home, and Mike brings home the stripper who gave him a lap dance, and the party was a success. Ron and Dina call Vinny in the middle of the night and cry together on the patio about how much they miss him. The next day is a big couple day. Dina has a date, Gianni and Roger come over, Paula comes over, and Gianni's visits actually pose somewhat of a problem for Dina and Jenny because when Gianni's around, he doesn't really like when Nicole gets drunk because she always acts a fool. So she started just staying home from nights out when he's around. And this brings back those old feelings that Jenny and Dina had where they want their old Snooki back and they think Gianni's trying to change her. At Bamboo, Sam randomly gets in a fight when some girl pulls her hair, so they all go home and everyone smushes. The next morning, Pauly's had enough of the bullshit and decides to bring Vinny back to the shore himself. So they all dress up in Free Vinny gear and drive out to Staten Island and bust him out. He looks better already, he's got a big new chest tat, and he's ready to pick up where he left off at the shore and not throw in the towel just yet. Episode 5, Nothing But Nice. Vinny's back and Pauly's updating him on all the drama. Ever since Vinny left and all the birthday commotion, Mike's been being quiet. Too quiet. Like, sometimes he's over the top nice in a way no one recognizes, but other times he's still doing his Joker thing. He says weird, cryptic things, and at the club he just kind of wanders off alone. Speaking of the club, Snooki pees her pants on the dance floor and gets nervous that something might be wrong with her. Meanwhile, Jenny's having trouble getting in touch with Roger and thinks something might be up. Stand by. The next day, the gang goes to Jenks, and Mike is being a little standoffish. Ron jokes that his sudden niceness is suspicious and makes him think something bad is coming. This really offends Mike, and he starts to feel like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. If everyone wants me to be the villain, then I have no problem being the villain. And it kind of reminds me of Ron with the flowers with Sam, where it's like he's only being nice so that he can blow up later and be like, I was Mr. Nice Guy for far too long. But it's like he's jumping the gun and getting mad before anyone really does anything. So he runs into a group of friends and decides to hang there with them while everyone else goes to the batting cages. Later on, when they all ride home, Mike takes a cab with Dina and Snooki. And he starts venting to them, saying, I'm so nice to everyone, but I feel like there's certain people who talk shit. I keep saying this, he's very cryptic, especially when he's talking trash. He says Ron and some of the guys think he's plotting stuff, and he thinks Pauly is two-faced. Snooki tries to have his back and tells him that if he feels like people are talking behind his back or being two-faced, he should call it out when he sees it. At home, he's completely sloshed and starts walking around with his pecker out. No one knows what's going on. He thanks Snooki for telling him what's up, and we start to realize that he either completely misunderstood the conversation they just had, or he's just found his window to stir the pot. Everyone's on the roof now. He's talking about how everyone wants him to be the villain, and he's having this emotional monologue, and Ronnie's shocked that the one little comment he made seems to have sent him into a full spiral. While Snooki's in confessional, Mike interrupts her to come talk to him, preparing to instigate. He finds the guys and tells them if anyone's mad at him to say it now. They're all confused because they were literally just today talking about how uncharacteristically nice he's being. Snooki tells him to just tell them what he told her, which is that Ron thinks he's evil and he thinks Pauly's two-faced. But he's incapable of getting his point across unless he buries it in a riddle, so they continue to be confused about what he's talking about. There's some fun fluff in this episode. Snooki and Dina bought this bunny costume when they were getting supplies for Mike's party, and now they scare everyone with it. They play this game called Warm Beer where everyone stands in a circle, and one person has a beer that they are warming up with a lighter. The objective of the game is to memorize a pattern that you draw with your finger on the player to your side's face. Once you mess up the pattern so many times, you have to drink the warm beer. Or that's what they want you to think at least. The real objective is to play this game with a clueless person. Position the player who is warming the beer next to the clueless person. As they heat up the can, soot will form on the bottom. When this player draws on the other player's face, they'll have soot all over it, which is the actual point of the game, to play a fake game that distracts one person from knowing that there's soot all over their face. They have a great night and they all go to bed. Once they're all asleep, Snooki sneaks in and scares Mike with the bunny mask. Jenny calls up a friend to come fix her and Snooki's hair, but while they're getting it done, some man shows up. Turns out, Snooki forgot that her dad was coming to town. And she's also still having problems with having to pee all the time and hurting, so she kind of has to blow off her plans with him. On break, Mike runs into Roger, who hasn't been answering Jenny's calls, just strolling around on the boardwalk with his buddies. He tells Jenny, who's pissed, because why is he at the Seaside Heights boardwalk where she lives and not hitting her up to come see her? Mike's still going on about people talking about him behind his back, and Dina tries to tell him that he's just being paranoid and she's gone through this exact same thing. But he's not listening. He's gone from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. She also tries to explain to him that Snooki wasn't telling him Pauly is talking about you, you need to talk to him about it. She was just generally telling him to speak up when he feels like his friends are being fake. Later, he apologizes to Pauly, saying he thinks someone was just trying to cause a little trouble. So he's back to hating Snooki. He says she blindsided him, and he's back on the road to telling Gianni. Now that we've hit the halfway point, I want to take a little break from watching Mike go insane and talk about something that I've never really heard anyone talk about before, and that is MTV's Bridge and Tunnel.
Staten Island girls are bitches.
You probably haven't heard of it, and that's because it never made it to air. So going back to part 1 where I mentioned to you that there was a bit of a Jersey/Guido craze that contributed to the creation of Jersey Shore in the first place, Viacom was actually producing 2 Guido-centric shows. A high-budget one for MTV, and a low-budget one for VH1. The low-budget one ended up being moved to MTV and called The Jersey Shore. But the high-budget one? That was Bridge and Tunnel.
You want a bitch? I'll give you a bitch.
The show's been described as like Jersey Shore, but with more heart. It showcases two sisters from Staten Island, Brianna and Gabriella DiBartoli. The pilot of the show was filmed and sold to MTV before Jersey Shore even began production. By the time Jersey Shore started filming in late summer 2009, Bridge and Tunnel had filmed all 12 episodes. However, they weren't set to air until the fall of 2010. As winter of 2009 approached, MTV scrambled for what to do, and at the last minute decided to air their low-budget series, Jersey Shore, and see where it goes. Without any heavy promotion, the show was a hit. A massive hit. And when the fall of 2010 came and the time for the premiere of Bridge and Tunnel neared, the show was shelved only 1 month before it was set to debut. Why? Well, because it was too similar to their hit show, Jersey Shore. The day after the announcement of its cancellation, Perez Hilton would leak a trailer on his website featuring lots of drinking, dancing, partying, and cigarette smoking. Perez and others implored MTV to reverse their decision and bless us with all this great content. And the people who knew members of the cast came to their defense, saying that they were much classier than the Jersey Shore cast, and they really deserved to get the show, but to no avail. A year later, The Village Voice ran a cover story about the would-be stars, the DiBartoli sisters, and the author said that they got to actually see the pilot episode, and it was really great, it had a lot of heart, but that's the most I've ever heard of someone saying the show. While Bridge and Tunnel hangs in programming purgatory, the DiBartolis are hamstrung by draconian network contracts that reportedly don't allow them to have agents or managers or even talk about any of this publicly for 5 years. So while JWoww shills her own black bronzer line and Snooki slams into Italian police cars for $100,000 an episode, Gabrielle and Brianna have been working respectively as a secretary and pizza order girl in Staten Island. Papers they signed as passports off Staten Island are effectively keeping them there. Note, they couldn't talk about it for 5 years. But it's been more than 5 years now. When I originally filmed this video, I said that this trailer was lost media, and I called for anyone to help me find it, as every instance of it online or in the Internet Archive was gone. But then I got a message. Brianna DiBartoli of the DiBartoli sisters, stars of Bridge and Tunnel, reached out to me and said that she could send me the trailer. I'd spent an entire 2 days scouring the internet, trying to figure out how to play videos that didn't exist, and then it just fell into my lap. So, I have it. I have the trailer for Bridge and Tunnel. But you see, the thing is, I can't just show you the video. I'd love to, but even the few little clips I've used so far, I'm honestly very scared to have in the video. This isn't like a regular MTV lost media moment of a show that someone taped and re-uploads, which Viacom would and has taken down before. This show never aired. The trailer was never even released. It never aired on TV. The trailer was leaked by Perez Hilton and then subsequently removed from everywhere on the internet. So, I'll just tell you this and my hands will be wiped clean. This is Brianna's Instagram. She may or may not have a story highlight titled MTV, where there may or may not be a video that you might be wanting to see right now. So, feel free to pause this video and go watch that and then come back here and press play. I'll give you a second. It looked so good, didn't it? Well, we're never going to see it. And I find it kind of fascinating that MTV just has an entire show, probably many, just completely filmed and ready, just shelved, never to be seen. Imagine if it had been the other way around and Jersey Shore Season 1 just got shelved and we never got to see it. Anyway, back to the show. Episode 6, The Follow Game. Mike calls Unit to come over and expose Snooki, but it turns out he's in Miami, so she's safe for now. But Unit does share that Mike's little brother hooked up with Dina's sister, and allegedly, she's a squirter. At the club that night, Vinny talks to 2 separate girls, and Dina plays wingman by bringing one of the girls home with her as a backup plan for him. Turns out, Plan A girl's a lesbian, but unfortunately, that doesn't deter Vinny. Because Vinny's the type of person who thinks he can turn a lesbian straight.
When you take a lesbian back to the straight team...
Shockingly, she isn't interested in being turned, so he hooks up with the Plan B girl. Jenny's psyching herself out with her relationship with Roger. She thinks things have been too good to be true, and he's got to be secretly playing her. And she's just overthinking the whole boardwalk thing. When she finally calls him, he tells her that he took the day off work to go to the beach and find his phone that he lost because he needs his phone for work. Jenny starts to poke holes in his story, pointing out how he constantly tells her he can't take days off work to come see her, but he can take it off to look for a phone that he doesn't need for work because he has a separate work phone. Snooki says it's always dark in Arkansas. Roger's supposed to be coming over today, but he calls last minute and says he's going to be late, and Jenny tells him that they can just cancel their plans if it's going to be that way. And her perspective on this is he took the day off to peruse the boardwalk with his guys, and he's going to use work of all things as an excuse to why he can't come see her. She just feels very untrusting right now. But he's confused and says she's just being dramatic. Pauly, Dina, and Snooki work together at the Shore store, And having meatballs work together always ends up being a problem. They play the follow game, and Danny's usually pretty cool about them doing things like this. Like, he'll chase them down and bring them back and be like, girls. And he does. He goes and gets them. When they're back at work, a customer asks Snooki where's the best place to get a drink. And she decides that she and Dina can just show her themselves, and they leave work. When Pauly clocks out, Danny tells him that they're in big trouble. Also, Pauly has a new stalker. She bought something at the store the other day, and now she keeps showing up everywhere. So when he and Vinny go to the pool bar EJ's after work, she's there too. They call her over and try to talk to her, but she never really talks. Mike comes out of his self-isolation and feels betrayed that everyone left the house and no one invited him. Shortly after, the meatballs arrive home and invite him out. He's confused why they're being so nice to him because in his head, he's already started beefing with them. Jenny tried to go out and have fun with the meatballs, but when they go out with Mike, she stays in bed crying over Roger. Oh, and Mike and the meatballs have a time. The next morning, Dina finds out that Danny's mad and calls him to apologize. While they eat dinner, for no reason in particular, Mike starts talking about Dina's sister, the squirter. And in front of Dina, he calls Unit to get more details. Dina's disappointed in her sister for hooking up with Mike's brother and does not trust him. Mike talks to Dina's sister on the phone and is like, yes, I love it. I hope things work out. You're such a nice girl. Tell Dina I'm not evil because she seems to think I am. But he reveals to us that he just wants their relationship to continue so he can get more dirt. Everyone plays cornhole on the roof. Vinny runs into Roger at the gym and he's talking all kinds of shit the way he always does. Later, he tells Dina and Jenny in a kind of messy way, but when they're like, hold on, what? He starts lying and says that he didn't say anything that bad. He didn't say anything bad. Actually, he was being so nice. Jenny gives in and calls him to apologize, and he goes off. Jenny also looks really pretty here. Episode 7, Love at the Jersey Shore. Roger yells at Jenny on the phone and defends himself. She's like, damn, okay, maybe I was wrong. And they're good again. Snooki and Dina make Danny a cake to say they're sorry to him for dipping out at work. In the morning, they find a bite taken out of the cake, and Mike is their prime suspect since he was the last one awake, and, on account of being a horrible person. And like I said, sneaky bastard, hidden agenda. But they give Danny the cake anyway. Mike's scheduled to work with Snooki and Jenny, but they're late because Jenny takes Snooki to the doctor for her UTI. Mike knows about this, but pretends that he doesn't so that Danny gets a little annoyed with them. Once they arrive, they interrogate him about the cake. He says he doesn't even eat cake and starts to get even more pissed off because they blame him for everything. Meanwhile, at the house, Pauly tells Dina that when he woke up this morning, he saw the cake and couldn't resist taking a bite. And everyone does feel kind of bad for assuming it was Mike. It's Paula's birthday, so they're all celebrating, doing shots, even Snooki, who's on antibiotics right now and not supposed to be drinking. Back at home, Mike and Paula are cuddled up, and it seems like they really like each other. The next night, Snooki, Mike, and Jenny stay home while everyone else goes to Jenkinson's. Snooki wants to go dance somewhere, but Mike is busy being really weird.
Did you ever see Varsity Blues?
Yes.
Where they just put like whipped cream on each other, and then they just have whipped cream on it, and they're drunk. We should do that.
Dina brings home this guy, and they haze him and prank her. The next night, it's a lot of club scenes, guys. Please stay with me. They go out to Karma, and Jenny's ready to see Roger and really wow him, so she's wearing a very season 1 JWoww outfit. Things are a little tense. He loves making jokes about how she never has sex with him in front of everyone, which I personally find so weird. At Karma, some guy is harassing Jenny and Roger shoves him, breaking out into a fight. End of episode. Episode 8, Sharp Objects. Roger's fighting, he throws a real haymaker. Back home, Johnny's throwing up, but Snooki wants to smush. And Johnny's not the best in general. Neither of them are really treating each other like gold by any means. But in this scene, he just got finished barfing his brains out, and she's like, all right, time to smush. And he's like, just lay with me, please. I'm tired. And she's like, if we're not smushing, what are you doing here? You're just taking up space in my bed. And like, if I was him and my girlfriend said that to me, I would start crying. Like, I would sob. Roger's hanging out with the roommates, which he usually never does because he's an old man and goes to sleep early. But this one time, he decides to do it, and Jenny's trying to get him to go upstairs. This turns into Roger doing that thing he does where he talks shit about her to her friends. And Ron is having an absolute giggle fest, and Jenny throws something at him off the balcony. The next day, they all go crabbing. They all kind of suck at all of it. Mike lays down and starts tanning in the middle of the fishing pier. The meatballs get on a little raft and ride around, but the wind is going crazy. Mike and Ron act like they're trying to help, but Ron lets all the air out of the boat. They push him away, thinking he's trying to flip it. The boat starts deflating, they're floating towards something sharp, and they think they hear everyone yelling, shark. And Dina's just like me, so she panics and flips over the entire raft. Ron clogs the toilet again with his toxic ass. Snooki's gushing over Gianni, but Mike says he doesn't think he's right for her. That night, Snooki loses a bet and has to wear the bunny suit out to the club. It ends up being the hit of the night, and everyone agrees that it's one of the best nights out they've ever had. And when everyone's ready to turn it in for the night, the meatballs keep it going. They jump over the fence onto the closed beach and run into the water where they're caught by the police. Snooki and Ron have a BFF day the next morning. She wants to keep drinking, but she sneaks off and comes back with this little mini bike he's been wanting. This is setting us up for something. There's more stalker content. She keeps showing up everywhere. Jenny confronts her. And here we get a little behind the scenes look at what the boardwalk was like when they were filming the show. You may have noticed how sparsely populated the store always seems to be, and that's because, as you see in this photo, they would have huge lines outside and only let in a few people at a time as to not have the sounds of screaming fans in the background, like in other scenes.
My family.
Vinny and Snooki are will they won't theying again. Johnny gets annoyed by her talking dirty on the phone, and Vinny says he's trying to change her. They go out and dance, and Snooki says if she was single, she'd smush Vinny. Episode 9, The Truth Will Set You Free. Dina's been really into this guy she's been seeing named Joey. When she goes out to Jenks with Vinny and Pauly, he can't go, which upsets her because she's already on her own without Snooki and Jenny, who are all boyfriended up, and now she's really alone. They also run into Angelina there, by the way, but they ignore her. And when she hangs out with Jenny and Sam, they tell her that Joey might be trouble, but this is the last thing she wants to hear. On his lunch break from the shore store, Mike hangs back and calls Unit to finally set his master plan into motion tonight. Also happening tonight, it's Jenny and Roger's anniversary, so she's decorating the smush room with rose petals and handcuffs. Vinny and Pauly get a little annoyed because they don't think couples should be able to take the smush room, which doesn't really make sense to me. Like, are they not smushing? Vinny wears this. At the club, Mike and Unit meet up, and Mike plots maniacally, giving Unit a walkthrough of his whole plan. But it turns out Gianni's family is there, so he's like, okay, stand by, stand down, you don't want to get too crazy when the family's around. And when Gianni and Snooki retire to the house, he tells Unit they've got to relocate the party. Meanwhile, Dina talks to Joey to see if he's using her for sex. He says of course he's not, and she shouldn't believe rumors. Later on, she asks one more time just to be safe, and he flips out, leaving her for being insecure. The camera pans away, showing him cuddling up with some other girl immediately after. So maybe this is your sign, always ask twice. Mike's trying his hardest to get Unit home, but he's plastered. The cops catch them, and Unit gets arrested. When I was watching this, I was like, he wasn't doing anything, so he must have been holding. And sure enough, ketamine. Which could also explain why he was so gone. I hope you're happy, Unit. There's a horse somewhere who needs surgery, and you want to play around. Mike decides that there's only one soldier left who can fight this battle for him, and that's himself. Episode 10, One Meatball Stands Alone. In the morning, Mike's met with the perfect circumstances. Snooki's still asleep, and Gianni's outside having a cigarette. Mike sits him down and tells him exactly what happened. Gianni goes upstairs laughing and tells Snooki. He tells her he didn't even really care or believe him, and gets back in bed. This leads to speculation from the roommates, who think him not caring about something like this means he doesn't care about her, or he's cheating too. Snooki tries to press Mike about lying to Gianni, and Gianni's very non-confrontational, so he's super uncomfortable. Where Mike's thing used to be going around telling everyone about he and Snooki's hookup, his new thing is telling them all about how he exposed her to Gianni. The roommates break into a food fight, and things turn personal between Mike and Nicole.
Round 2. Final round.
You scared of milk, Popeye?
That's why you cheat on him all the time.
I never
What's a
cheat on
cheater?
him.
What's a
I never cheat on him. Moron.
Finish him.
Dina wants to give Joey another chance despite what her friends told her, because remember, she didn't see what we saw. Vinny and Pauly stop her from calling him, and she realizes if they think he's grimy, she's got a real problem on her hands. So when he calls, Pauly tells him Dina's sick, and he immediately gets mad.
Joke. So this is a joke.
Jenny tells him that a good guy would try to make her feel better and offer to bring her soup or something, so Dina will be moving on now, thank you. While they're out that night, Dina cries because Snooki stayed home to be with Gianni again, and she misses her partner in crime, especially on nights like this. Everyone gears up to go camping, and Vinny and Pauly orchestrate a great prank to be pulled while they're gone. The camping's pretty boring. All you need to know is that Mike's super paranoid the entire time, and they're all totally out of their element, and they hate it. When they get home, the house has been turned completely inside out. Episode 11, We Are Family. Everyone reacts to being pranked, but it's about to rain, so they have to get their reactions over with really quickly and get their shit back inside. Mike refuses to move his stuff back in since he didn't take it out and says he's just going to let his stuff get destroyed and have nowhere to sleep. But Pauly gives in and just helps him carry his stuff in so he'll stop being such a sourpuss. That night, they go to Jenkinson's where Vinny meets a lesbian couple who's down to have a threesome with him, which he thinks is totally epic. And he notes that maybe he'll be the one to get them to be straight. You're just their third, Vinny. Mike's feeling dejected, so he starts being messy again, and he tells Snooki about Dina's squirter sister. Jenny and Sam later tell Dina what he's been saying. Then there's a tornado, and I keep saying it, but the way Dina acts in this situation is like they took a page from my life and put it to screen. She is me. At Karma the last night, Dina finally confronts Mike about gossiping about her sister, to which he says it's not a bad thing to be a squirter, it's totally cool. Coincidentally, both of their siblings are in the club that night, so they all party together and everything is cool again. The final day in the shore house, we get one last GTL, one last prank, and one last hug goodbye. Till next summer. By the time season 5 wrapped, the cast and crew had been shooting for 120 days straight. 2 days before the finale of season 5, Snooki revealed on the cover of Us Weekly that she was pregnant. And not only was she pregnant, but she was engaged. She also shared that she wouldn't be returning to the shore house, saying, "I'm not living in that house pregnant. I don't want to be one of those moms that's pregnant in a club. It's disgusting." So you may have noticed that I skipped the reunion after we finished season 4. Like I said, I wanted to drive home the point that they were non-stop filming for these seasons. They wrapped up season 5 before they even had season 4 on the air, so the schedule, instead of being filming, reunion, was filming, reunion. So let's talk about them now. The season 4 reunion. These reunions are clip shows. Also important note, Dina has scene hair. We have a new host, Amy Paffrath, who is now married to Drew Seeley. I watched another Cinderella story the other day and I was Googling him and I was like, why do I know that name? And this is unfortunately why. Of course, the talk of the night is Mike and Snooki. From the first 2 minutes, they're talking super tough to each other. She's like, "You're a pussy. You were scared to get knocked out by Ronnie." He's like, "Ooh, you like me. You slobbed on my knob." The usual. We do the clip show part about the thing. And this is where I start having problems with these reunions. The hosts don't grill them. Say we want about Andy Cohen, but he's messy, just like a host should be. She reads off the card and says, "Why'd you circulate that fake story?" Mike, who likely doesn't even remember this shit at this point, is like, "I just wanted to get the truth out there," which, if you'll remember, was not the reason. He did it to find out who told Nicole about him being nasty about her in front of everyone the night before. Dina and Sam express their confusion. Dina says, what did it prove, since she was real from the second she heard it, telling him that she was going to tell Nicole. He says, "But you didn't, someone else did." Sam says, "I was standing right there with her, and I'm the one that told her." And we just move on to the next topic. That's it. Nothing new is gleaned, no perspectives are changed from when it happened in the episode. That's just it. We talk Dina's love life and watch a meatball compilation. Clip show. Then something actually almost interesting happens. Dina and Snooki bring up Sam and Jenny talking shit, and Jenny gaslights her, saying, "You assumed that. You assumed that we were talking trash because in your head you feel guilty." Like, whoa, that's next level. Dina's like, "No, I watched the show, girlfriend." And Jenny's like, And Amy says, "Let's move on from that." No, show the clips of Sam and Jen talking shit. What is the point of this reunion? This is pathetic, and I'm annoyed. Season 5 reunion. The first quarter is the same shit. Mike and Snooki are still fighting about that same ass story. Back and forth, he's lying, I'm not lying. Except now he's more like, "I need to prove this because you're making me look like a liar."
Doing this.
Who the cares?
Oh, there we go, yes.
Yeah, buddy.
Mike says she started it, which is verifiably untrue. She actually kind of spits for a second. She's like, "You like drama, but you don't want people to hate you." Both true. So you started drama with me because you thought I'd let you get away with it. Also pretty plausible. She did let people get away with a lot of slick stuff pretty often. Everyone gets on Mike's ass. They show a compilation of him being the Joker all summer, and he's just like, "I got a big heart, you know?" And they're like, "No, you acted weird and made us all not like you." And he's like, "Whoa, that's all old stuff. What the heck?" Dina brings up how he pretended to like her sister when really, on camera, he was being fake and admittedly just trying to get dirt on her to gossip with. And he just ignores that and says, "Someone's gotta be the scapegoat." It's infuriating, and Amy just, I mean, it pays to have someone invested in the show to host like Andy Cohen because this is just a waste. Mike just walks off when they continue to press him because we can never have anything like him walking off is the interesting thing that happens at this reunion. Jenny talks to him and he comes back and apologizes for walking out, and we move on to more clips. Toward the end, Ron and Sam reveal that they are not together anymore, but they're here being very cordial with each other and joking around, and I know as good as anyone that this means a get back together is imminent. Then more clips show who cares. On March 19th, MTV announced that the show would make its return for the 6th season. That same week, Mike would enter a rehabilitation program and publicly announced that he had been struggling with an addiction to prescription painkillers for a long time. It was also around this time that the first ever Jersey Shore spinoff would air, the Pauly D Project. It was originally announced right around the end of season 3 that the show would be getting 2 spinoffs, the first of which was a reality show about Pauly DJing in Vegas and living with a group of his close friends. On Jersey Shore, because Pauly doesn't really have any personal drama, he kinda doesn't get any main plot lines on the show. So while some may watch the show and see the drama as the main storyline and Pauly and Vinny and sometimes the Meatballs' antics as B-plot, others enjoyed the show in reverse, seeing the drama as what you needed to get through to get to the fun stuff that the most beloved characters were a part of. And despite being a breakout star of the cast and catchphrase king,
Yeah, buddy,
you walk away from the show knowing nothing about Pauly D. Think about it. What do we know about Pauly? This show gives viewers a look into his real life. The plot of the show is that Pauly has an audition to become a resident DJ at the Palms in Las Vegas. We see him nervous about stepping out of his comfort zone, being the man of the Rhode Island club scene, and more importantly, fear for his father's well-being while he's away following his stroke. We meet his entourage, his main group of friends whose connections all begin at the Rhode Island club Ultra. Pauly met DJ Biggie while DJing together, Jerry was the bouncer, and Ryan was the manager of the club. Now, as a part of Pauly's team, Biggie's his mentor, Jerry is his personal security, and Ryan is his social director and wingman. There's also J-Rock, who's referred to as Mr. Vegas. He's the guy to know in Vegas and the reason that Pauly gets this Palms audition. There's also Adam Lieber, who is his manager and also producer of the show. At this time, he was also managing Britney Spears alongside Larry Rudolph. And more recently, he's managed Miley Cyrus, and he currently manages Lil Nas X and Labyrinth. In the pilot episode, we see him travel to Vegas, get through the audition despite technical difficulties, and then not get a call for 6 months, and then land the residency at the Palms. He and his entourage move into the Palms. Pauly navigates being a professional DJ and finding love, ? Biggie wants to protect his relationship with his girlfriend back home, MJ, who he proposes to in the final episode. And Ryan is a loose cannon who puts things in jeopardy a couple times. You'll want to remember that. The 12-episode first season aired, but would not be renewed for a second. And for any curious minds out there, Biggie and MJ are in fact still together. Shortly after, the second spinoff would air, the much more popular and successful Snooki JWoww. The show was supposed to be about Snooki and Jenny moving in together in Jersey and having one last hurrah before their relationships with their respective men get serious. But as we know, Snooki was already engaged and pregnant, which she reveals to Jenny in the pilot episode. And of course, they still agree to move in together, and the show becomes more about their friendship than partying and being wild, which gives the show a very different tone from Jersey Shore. I've seen many people describe this show, and sometimes Pauly D Project, as cursory viewing before going into season 6 of Jersey Shore. Because we take a whole year break between season 5 and season 6, which isn't very common in the Jersey Shore universe, it fills in a lot of gaps from going from season 5 to season 6, where Snooki's 7 months pregnant and the dynamics are just pretty different. Also here, we start to see the not so great sides of Gianni and especially Roger. His and Jenny's fights on this show are uncomfortable to watch. Even for those viewers who were loving Sam and Ron drama, it got really bad. The show was often described as a modern Laverne and Shirley, and though it didn't produce those same Jersey Shore numbers, it was good enough to get renewed for 4 seasons. And as you may have recognized, season 5 of Jersey Shore was sort of the biggest dud yet. And as the cast got more famous in their own individual lanes, thus expecting higher and higher pay, and productions got more and more strained as they tried to film these now super famous people in these faux natural settings, and the ratings for the show continued to fall, it was announced that this season, the 6th season, would be the show's last.
Gin. Tan.
Laundry.
So let's jump right in. Season 6. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, this season is a real drag. It was a very boring watch, so I'm going to keep this as brief as I can for my sanity's sake. So let's see how fast I can get through 13 hours of television. Episode 1, Once More Onto the Beach. Starting off the season, Snooki's 6 months pregnant, Mike is sober and kinda seeing Paula now, but nothing a fish. Jenny and Roger are living together, Ron and Sam are back together, and Dina is seeing a guy named Chris. She's also got a nice new set of teeth. Oh yeah, and Vinny. Let's see. Vinny. Well, he's still talking about Nicole. This is also the first time we ever see them with cell phones, which is jarring, to be honest. Mike's being nicer than usual on account of the sobriety, and he's trying to show people that he genuinely has changed and bettered his life. He cooks a classic family dinner and gives each of them an apology for the things he did, but people are still hesitant to trust him and are just going to let him prove himself before they let their guards down. Both he and Snooki are really testing their strengths being at the shore house. Mike's surrounded by alcohol and people partying, and similarly, Snooki keeps being frustrated by the limitations of her pregnancy, like not being able to G or T. And she decides to stay home from the first night out, which sucks because that's always one of the best nights. So instead, she and Johnny go out to dinner while everyone else parties. The beginning of one of the many sacrifices she's going to have to make for motherhood. Episode 2, No Shame, Good Integrity. While everyone's out for their first night at Karma, Dina's boyfriend Chris shows up, and Dina loves her some Chris. Almost too much. She kind of can't stand to be without him, which becomes a challenge for her on the show this season, even though he's kind of around a lot. Sam and Ron get into a fight about how Sam didn't eat before drinking and now her tummy hurts, which is exactly what Ron said would happen. This somehow turns into the fight that they always have. Also, I should mention that this season becomes the Dina show. She's pretty much the star of this season, for better or worse. Vinny's talking to Chris about furniture because Chris works at a fancy imported furniture place and Vinny just bought a house and is on the market. But Dina thinks he's making fun of Chris and tells him to leave him alone. When she realizes she was wrong, she gets really embarrassed and cries. This is my sister, and Chris is, the best. He's like, oh, you were just trying to defend me, and I love you for that, From this, she starts crying more non-specifically about not being able to do it, I think it being the show, and she spends the rest of the night on an emotional roller coaster. She's emotional that he's going to leave, she's emotional that she wasted their whole night together being emotional, she's emotional when he does actually leave. It's just a really tough night for her. Everyone else gets hot dogs and brings home some girls. The next day, Snooki says it was really hard for her to sleep after they got home so late last night, and she doesn't think she can keep living in the shore house. Mike tells Sam and Ron about the beauty of his sobriety and how for a while he forgot who he even was before drugs, but as every day goes by little, he's rediscovering himself. And they both agree that he's even better than when they first met him all those summers ago. Later, Vinny tells Dina that she's unhealthily attached to Chris. She tells him that she just has anxiety, and he's like, no, it's your relationship. Later, he's frustrated to find that his constant joking about Snooki and his previous relationship and saying things like, I might be the father, have tarnished his relationship with her. And when he finds out Ronnie's going to her Lamaze class with her, he says they barely even had sex, which is crazy considering how much he brings it up. Literally, anytime Gianni's around, he's like, that kid hates me, he won't talk to me, I can't even shake his hand, I can't shake his hand, that's like going up to him and going, yeah, I slept with your girl. Snooki talks to Danny about moving out, and he tells her that he actually owns the property right next door to the shore house that she can live in. How convenient. Jenny and Dina have meatball time, which annoys Snooki because all these years when she wasn't pregnant, Jenny never was able to go meatball mode with her. Mike makes dinner, and as they each share stories about losing their virginity, 3 of which were in cars. Suddenly, Vinny drops the bombshell that he's celibate.
That's stupid.
No, is that what?
Though he's unclear on whether or not celibate people can jerk off, because he is in fact doing that. Episode 3, Toxic Shot Syndrome. Snooki moves into the little house next door.
This is perfect for a pregnant bitch.
I know.
Mike gets a Vivitrol shot, which is a part of his treatment plan. And this is a gluteal shot that prevents you from getting high. It works as a sort of deterrent, so you won't be able to get high even if you do use, and it's meant to prevent relapse. Back at work, Mike isn't on his A game due to the side effects of his shot. But he's also never really on his A game, so when his coworkers are poking fun at him, he just leaves. Vinny follows him home and tells him that he's doing what's best for him and don't let the shore store stress him out, his health comes first, and this is a rare Vinny win. Paula comes over to hang out with Mike, and Jenny's pressuring them to make it official, and it seems like Mike might be interested. At work the next day, Dina throws up and feels ill, and gets scared that she might have toxic shock syndrome. But Dina's just a hypochondriac, and Jenny tries to comfort her. This snowballs into another panic attack for Dina. She calls her mom to try to get some comfort, but her mom just doesn't get it and doesn't understand why she's so upset, and says the line that I, and other people with anxiety I'm sure, know so well, you're just upsetting yourself. Sam tries to comfort her because she feels like she can relate to being miserable and crying nonstop at the shore. This pisses Ron off because her empathy makes them late for their dinner plans, and as we know, he doesn't believe in anxiety. Snooki and Johnny have a cute little date night, and everyone else goes to karaoke where they ambush Mike by signing him up to sing Amy Winehouse's Rehab. But he's a good sport and he loves it. Episode 4, Blues, Balls, and Brawls. Johnny's heading to Miami for a big fight, and Snooki's feeling insecure. Everyone goes to kick it on her porch, and things continue to be tense between Johnny and Vinny. The guys are playing around on the top deck and get flashed. They go downstairs to meet the lovely lady, and she's very forward. Vinny says she's not DTF, she's DFA. They joke about bringing this girl home to their moms when Mike says that Paula's met his mom already. And they say he's got to talk to Paula because they're practically already official. Then Vinny admits that the real reason he's been celibate is because before he came out to the shore, he met someone special and he's trying to save himself for only people who feel special to him like she did, meaning Pauly is our only real and true slut left. Jenny invites Roger to dinner, which is secretly a surprise birthday party for him. They wait and wait and wait and wait, and he doesn't show up until pretty close to the time that he originally said he needed to leave by. Jenny's annoyed, so he tries to air her out in front of her friends like he always does. He makes a wish on his candles.
I really wish Jenny stopped bitching.
But he agrees to stay longer, and they make up, and everyone rides the mechanical bull. At work, Mike's trying to be friends with Snooki, but she still doesn't like him. The guys hit the boardwalk and happen to run into Pauly's friends and cast members of the late show Pauly D Project. Jenny gets sent flowers by Roger and says she's definitely gonna sleep with him tonight now. Remember, because he complains all the time about not having enough sex. Dina takes Danny out for a meatball date. This is when I really knew that this season had nothing else to give. That night, Vinny and Pauly invite Snooki out to Bamboo, but she says that's definitely not the place for her right now because there's always fights going on. Foreshadowing. At Bamboo, Mike's got this guy stalker who just won't leave him alone. He's trying to tell him they're friends on Facebook. Mike's uncomfortable. Pauly's douchier friend Ryan tells him to take a hike, which leads to a physical altercation. Pauly says in confessionals that fights seem to follow Ryan wherever he goes. Jenny's liking the way Ryan snapped at the drop of a dime to stand up for them. For now. Moments later, Ryan's involved in another fight, and this one is much larger than the last. Jenny tries to get Roger to break it up, which leads to him getting involved. Now she's scared of what could happen, so she tries to take him out of the fight. Just a warning here for domestic violence, this next part is upsetting. You can skip to the timestamp that I'm going to put on the screen to skip through this part. Roger grabs Jenny by the neck and shoves her to the ground. She gets back up and throws her drink on him, asking him, "Who are you?" And he gets taken out of the club. Episode 5, Merp Walk. The chaos continues. Ryan talks to Roger.
Could care less about that. No, me too.
Jenny and Dina rationalize Roger shoving her by saying he probably didn't even realize it was her. And that's the problem, that he gets in these blind fits of rage and will hurt anyone in his path. This is foiled pretty quickly.
I recognize you the entire time. Jenny, I know this.
He says he did it on purpose, no accident, because she deserves it for trying to get in guy fights. Back home, Ronnie calls Roger up to check on him and make sure he's okay. Birds of a feather or whatever. The next morning, Jenny catches Nicole up on what happened, and they go to the doctor to check out Jenny's ankle because she's still limping. At the urgent care or whatever, she's told she has a fracture and she's given a splint and crutches and referred to a bone specialist to make sure there's nothing else wrong with it. Snooki's kind of happy Jenny's injured because now she gets to stay home and hang out with her. And I want to emphasize that not one single person is taking this seriously. At lunch, the guys all agree that they feel bad for Roger.
Jenny thinks that Roger pushed her and to try to swing at her, when that's not the case.
When they get home and see Jenny in a cast, they all agree she's milking it. In confessionals, Vinny's now turned his version of the events to Jenny tried to punch Roger.
Only trying to punch him in his face to protect him. So I don't think it was right for him to push me. And
oh, these guys, they're so darn lovable. You just want to squeeze them right around the neck. They go to Karma and everyone's there, including Vinny's creepy Uncle Nino. Mike's learning how to behave now that he has a girl he's semi-serious with, and he starts to lose his patience being around drunk people now that he's sober. So he leaves and calls Paula over to come cuddle. The next day, Dina goes out and gets smashed. She invited Ron and Sam to go with her, but she got too impatient waiting for them and just goes on her own. She's just drinking and crying with older women. Mike wakes up to a delivery of chocolate-covered fruit from Paula, and he's finally ready to make it a fish. Dina wins a big blue ball on the boardwalk to replace this other big blue ball that she popped when she was drunk last night. She goes to the shore store to ask Danny to bring her to a liquor store, and he sends his other employee, Steve, to bring her. Instead of going to a liquor store though, Dina takes him out with her and gets even more drunk. Ron and Sam finally show up and she immediately wanders off. She's dancing in the streets, Steve is trying to rein her in, but he doesn't get paid enough to play in traffic, so he just kind of lets her go. And luckily for her, she doesn't get hit by a car, but she does get arrested. And this is another moment where we can see the crowds that they usually carefully frame out, and we can hear them.
What happened?
Episode 6, let's make it official. Ron and Sam do a couple more rounds because she still has to get booked, so they might as well take their time. Mike invites Paula on a date to Rivoli's where he's going to ask her to make it official. He also buys Snooki this nice stroller as an olive branch. When they go bust Dina out, they find out she's already called her parents. Big mistake. Her mom thinks she's a total loon and is very disappointed in her. They let her ride out, but her mom warns her that if this keeps happening, she won't get another slap on the wrist. Mike tries to surprise Snooki with the stroller, but the second she's hesitant and confused, he starts being like, fine, be the pregnant lady who hates life. She goes to check it out and she likes it, but she can see that this is his weird way of apologizing instead of just saying, I am sorry, I was wrong, which is what she wants. And she knows the interaction won't be complete until she thanks him for it, so she does, and he's pleased. Mike tells everyone his plan for his date with Paula. Underneath his clothes, he will wear a shirt that reads, let's make it official, that he'll reveal to her during dinner. They all think it's stupid, but they want to go with him to Rivoli's for moral support. They see Boob Girl again. Jenny's still sad about Roger, and the next day they finally see a specialist about her ankle. Before they go, she and Snooki buy 2 mobility scooters, thinking she'll be out of commission all summer. At work, Mike makes his surprise shirt, and everyone pranks him by adding I like men to the back. But he does notice before leaving, and remakes it. At the specialist, the doctor says her ankle is just fine, and she'll be able to walk on it once it isn't sore anymore. So no mobility scooter, I guess. Now it's time for Mike's date with Paula. The rest of the gang sits at a separate table, but they're so loud you can hear them from Mike's.
Early nail appointment, and then I came home, took a nap.
He busts open his shirt to reveal the other shirt, and she is jaw-dropped for a really long time. I don't know if her jaw was actually dropped for this long, but the edit makes it look so awkward. But regardless, she says yes, and she's smitten. A little too smitten. And already, only moments into their relationship, Mike's having second thoughts. At home, Paula tells everyone that they need the smush room and says,
Sex on the reg, yeah.
Oh which Mike finds very off-putting. Jenny wonders why Roger hasn't called, so she gives in and calls him first and leaves a voicemail saying that she loves him. Mike's life coach and boxing trainer shows up, so Bad Girls Club, and he vents to him about Paula. We literally do not ever see this man again. I think they probably got a lot of footage about this Mike boxing subplot because when he bought the stroller, the reason he was at that store, I think, was to buy this boxing dummy thing. And they give it a name. I don't remember what the name is, but they reference it like one single time. Jenny thinks Roger wants to leave her. She calls him again and tells him about her ankle, and he's just such an asshole. I don't even want to give his words a second of my time, but the episode ends on a cliffhanger where we're left wondering whether or not they'll break up. In between the airing of this episode and the next, on October 29th, 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey. This was the deadliest storm to ever hit the state, and it absolutely decimated so much of the coastline in the Northeast. And it completely destroyed the boardwalk we'd all come to know and love. So on November 15th, after the episode of Jersey Shore aired, MTV hosted a telethon fundraiser featuring the cast of Jersey Shore as well as the stars of their other shows at the time like Awkward and Teen Wolf. It also featured performances by Gym Class Heroes and Philip Phillips, which I cannot find online anywhere. Short little tangent here. The reason Philip Phillips was performing was because, well, first, he was the winner of American Idol that year, but also, his song Home had become something of an anthem for Hurricane Sandy relief, so this song was just everywhere at the time. During the telethon, they aired clips of the cast going back to the shore in a helicopter and back to the shore store with Danny, where pretty much everything was destroyed.
There's actually benches from the boardwalk inside this place. Everything's destroyed.
I'm destroyed. I didn't know it was this bad. I saw pictures on like the internet and stuff. The roof separated from the building.
So this whole thing has to be knocked down?
I don't know.
Seeing Danny's face describes it all.
I don't want to be a crybaby or anything like that, but this is what I got. Every morning, here every night.
There were also a series of ads run to promote this fundraiser that featured like every single celebrity at the time.
As a kid, I spent my summers at the shore, and I have so many amazing memories from that time in my life.
All of our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of Hurricane Sandy.
Seaside Heights needs our help right now.
Please help to restore the shore and rebuild Seaside Heights.
People who live and work there can't do this alone.
No donation is too small.
No donation is too small.
Restore the shore, peeps.
No donation is too small.
No donation is too small.
No donation is too small.
Do what you can do to help.
Please do what you can to restore the shore.
Please help restore the shore and rebuild Seaside Heights.
Please do what you can to restore the shore. No donation is too small.
Please get behind the residents of Seaside Heights and bring the party back to the shore.
This storm has no effect on the actual show, obviously, because they were finished filming by the time it happened, but I just thought it would be wrong not to mention it, because they do dedicate so much of, like, the airing time at this point to also promoting this fundraiser and talking about restoring the shore. Episode 7, Great Meatballs of Fire. Roger continues being an asshole to Jenny, but says he's not breaking up with her. They cue the happy music, so I guess everything's fine now. Mike rants to everyone about how he's trying to stick it out with Paula, but she's like a whole nother person and he doesn't even know if he can take it anymore. Mind you, it hasn't even been 24 hours. However, he starts to get the idea that maybe he can fix her.
I will say that I don't like to be caged or confined. Most dogs don't.
Speak of the devil, who else would walk through the shore store doors but Paula, who has literally never once showed up there before? Yet another example of how she's changed. While she's at work, Pauly and Vinny decide to prank Dina by replacing all of her photos of her and Chris with pictures of the two of them. They go on an entire mission to complete this and arrive home at the same time as her, having to distract her while they swap out the pictures quickly. Dina and Ron go to the boardwalk together and she gets hammered and Ron gets annoyed because he thinks she talks about herself too much, which he relays to Sam when he gets home. At the club that night, Roger surprises Jenny and also surprises her with a few of her best friends, which she loves. Mike's struggling with the Taken life and has a Paula clone grinding on him. Unbeknownst to him, Paula's got spies all through this place and he gets busted. In the car on the way home, Dina revels in how much she loves Ron and how they had an awesome day. But Sam jumps in and says he said you talked about yourself all day, which upsets Dina. She starts spiraling about how no one likes her and no one gets how she feels, but the next morning she wakes up and feels silly, so she apologizes. If someone said that to me the way that Sam said that to her while I was talking about how much fun I had just had that day, I probably also would cry because why did you say that? Paula calls Mike and clearly her spies are no good because she doesn't know anything. At lunch, the guys see Pauly's stalker for the first time this summer. Dina goes out with Ron and Sam, but they can't hang like she can, so they go home while she stays out and parties. At home, Sam answers a call from Dina's mom, who asks if she's out drunk. They tell her she is, and she's pissed that they left her alone to get arrested again. Nicole tries to cook a romantic dinner for Gianni, but can't figure out how to light the stove and almost sets her house on fire. But he says it tastes good. Dina gets home right when her mom calls, and she's chewing her out. Like, everything that she says is the last thing that you would want to hear your mom tell you when you're drunk. Like, she was in a great mood before this, and then her mom tears her down and is like, look at you, you're an emotional wreck, you can't stop crying, you're coming home. So now there's this whole thing going on where Dina's trying to tell them that her mom's making her go home, but she's wasted, so they all think that she wants to go home because she's spiraling again like how she was last night. And Ronnie, empathetic, patient Ronnie, is like,
oh, bye.
Which obviously only upsets her more. He mocks her crying and says his favorite line.
Alright, so go home, Dina.
Episode 8, Control the Crazy. Dina's having a breakdown. Ron's tormenting her for some reason because he's tired of her being sad.
You don't know how I feel.
I always say that. So that's why I'm like, that's why I was falling like, tell me how you feel then. And she was like, I got anxiety. No, you have nothing to say.
She starts hyperventilating and Vinny takes her outside to have a heart-to-heart. He calms her down and they talk about stress and anxiety and it's a sweet moment. Inside, Ron and everyone else agrees that she's like that because her parents coddle her.
That's my friend. I want to console her and be there. But now it's a repetitive thing that I'm getting frustrated.
You're getting anxiety over it. You're getting annoyed.
Does this sound familiar at all? It sounds to me like she's been anxious all summer and drinking to distract herself. And like Ron has a very, very weak grasp on how emotions work. Ron calls Dina's mom and tells her that she doesn't need to leave, so they still come and bring her some food, but they don't take her with them. Meanwhile, everyone goes out to Karma. Mike struggles again with what exactly being faithful is, but he doesn't bring home a girl or anything. Vinny almost breaks his celibacy, but doesn't quite get there. They have a big family barbecue and debate whether or not Mike's grinding is cheating. When they get on the topic of the previous night, Sam, who, let's just say it, She hates Dina. She's hated her from the second she laid eyes on her. She thought she wasn't hot enough to be in the house, and she's been mean to that poor girl ever since the day she met her. Sam says everyone's getting real tired of seeing Dina be miserable all the time. In private, she tells her dating Chris has made her worse, and she cries all the time. Dina tells her that she isn't crying about or because of Chris, she's crying because she's sad. Sam says she's just gonna tell her straight up and says, "We all like Chris, but we think you're blowing it," and tells her she has only child syndrome. Paula calls Mike and invites her to hang on the boardwalk. Also on the boardwalk, Jenny, Snooki, and Sam go to an arcade, and Snooki steals a giant stuffed animal. Chris comes over and Dina asks him if he thinks she's being clingy to him, and he says no, and that he thinks a girlfriend is supposed to be a little clingy. They go on a double date with Paula and Mike is starting to realize that he might just hate Paula. See, he thought she was just a quiet, sweet, classy girl, but now that he's around her more, he's realizing that she's very one of the guys pilled. She's like throwing up the shocker, and she knows all these crazy sex terms that no one's ever heard of, and he starts to be a real dick.
I have no control over what comes out of your mouth, and when you sit there and smile, it's all good.
If I was Paula, I would like whack him across the head with my clutch.
At the club, Mike wants to creep, and Paula doesn't want to look like a crazy, controlling girlfriend, so she just lets him. At home, she tells everyone she's wearing butt pads.
Bring all the boys to the yard. Mazel tov!
And Mike says she's got to go. Episode 9, Make It Unofficial. Mike asks his sister for advice on how to break up with Paula. See, Mike's sister is his ideal woman. I'm just repeating what he said. At work, there's a huge storm and Dina's terrified.
Holy crap, it really is a freaking tornado! Oh my god, I'm getting out of here, this!
MVP go out to Captain Hooks, and Vinny and Pauly are running their mouths to everyone about how Mike needs help breaking up with his girlfriend, he's single now, etc. And the next few portions of this episode are just Mike hanging out one-on-one with different groups of people in the house and telling them the same thing about how he wants to dump Paula, she's not the same anymore, blah blah blah. Mike tells the group that he thinks he's ready to apologize to Snooki for bringing things up at the wrong time and ruining their friendship. Vinny says he thinks that they remind her of her past and she wants to leave that behind now that she's a mom, and that's why she doesn't bring Gianni around them. Sam asks Snooki if she's going to invite them to the wedding, and she says definitely not Mike, but she thinks it would be good for Vinny and Gianni to make up so that he can come. The next day, Snooki vents to Jenny about how she feels like she's the only person she can talk to about the pregnancy without being a nuisance. And Jenny encourages her to go have a meatball day with Dina and try hanging out with Vinny again. Jenny wants to throw a surprise baby shower for Nicole and asks Vinny to apologize to Gianni so everything can be cool already. Paula calls Mike and tells her that word got back to her about him saying he wants to break up with her last night. She cries and begs him for another chance. At work, Jenny rants to Ron and Vinny about how Gianni's never there for Snooki. And for the most part, he kinda is with Snooki in every scene she's in. At least that's how it's edited. She just doesn't ever bring him to the main shore house on account of the whole Mike and Vinny thing. But they all talk shit and we dust off that old Gianni sucks plotline. Snooki walks around with a deflated penguin balloon she calls Jumanji. Pauly calls Vinny and tells him to make a shirt for Mike's date with Paula tonight that says let's make it unofficial. And when they get home and show it to him, he's ready to get it all over with. Though he does give her props for calling him out because he thinks that was kind of hard. They go to the tanning salon where she works, he gets his tan first, and everyone's on the edge of their seats waiting for a dramatic breakup. But it goes really well. He asks if they can just go back to being friends with benefits like they were before, and she's fine with it. Everyone's disappointed. Episode 10, Shore Shower. Johnny's not visiting this weekend because he has a softball game and everyone is judging. Ron scares Jenny in a gorilla suit. Meatballs go to a fancy dinner together and everyone else goes to this place Jimbo's. And they all agree that Gianni isn't there enough, and if it was them, they would move every mountain and swim every ocean just to be with their pregnant fiancé. They go out to Karma and Mike wants to get his creep on. Unfortunately for Paula, she's also there, and Sam and Jenny feel really bad for her. There's an old go-go dancer there who they all think sucks at dancing, so Jenny gets up on stage and steals the spotlight and shows her how it's done. Mike gets cock-blocked by Paula telling him goodbye, and that is his final straw. At the meatball dinner, Snooki tells Dina she wants to go to the baby store, which makes Dina panic because they just bought everything in that store for her surprise baby shower. The next morning, she tries to invite over Gianni to go with her since no one else will go, and the girls have to rush over and intercept him and tell him he cannot bring her to the store no matter what. So he has to keep turning her down every time she asks about it, but he can't tell her why, so she just gets really sad that no one will do baby things with her, and he doesn't know what to do. And on top of that, tomorrow's that softball game I was telling you about, so she's double sad. Jenny tries to convince Vinny to talk to Gianni so he and Snooki can be friends again, but he doesn't think Snooki wants that. That night at the club, they're having so much fun. Jenny rips her pants right open, she's dancing so hard, and everything is perfect until she shows up. Angelina goes around and apologizes to everyone for how she acted. By everyone, I mean the guys. And they accept her apology, but then she just won't go away. And MVP was on the mission for DTF girls tonight, but they can't get rid of Angelina, so they just go home. Mike and Pauly stop for food, and as Vinny walks home, he just so happens to run into 2 DTF girls, and he thinks a threesome is certainly worth losing his celibacy for. But when he gets home, the smush room is in use by the most unlikely of occupants, Jenny and Roger. So he tries to take the party to his room, where Mike and Pauly also live, which makes one of the girls uncomfortable, so she leaves, and now it's just a twosome. And by Vinny's standards, what happened that night did not break his celibacy. But by everyone else's, it did. It's time for Snooki's surprise baby shower. And though it's going to be a fun night all about the baby, Jenny does plan on calling Johnny out for not being there enough. They do the big surprise, Snooki cries, and then things get awkward. As the credits roll, Vinny finds it the perfect time to talk to Gianni. Episode 11, Awkward. Vinny and Johnny squash the beef. Johnny tells him that he simply doesn't like it when he says stuff like, "I'm the father," or constantly references him sleeping with Nicole. And it's awkward, but they're cool now, I guess. Back at the table, Jenny does her call out, and Johnny is confused. Roger says it's just a nice way of kicking him in the nuts. They do a baby bottle drinking contest, Snooki opens presents, and outside a crowd of people watches on and films them like the White Bear episode of Black Mirror. The next morning, Mike wakes up and decides it's finally time to apologize to Nicole. He tells her plainly that he fucked up. She says it's hard to forget what he did, but she's over it, and she accepts his apology, kinda, and they high-five. Sam pulls a wee solo mission prank on the boys by locking them out on the balcony. Things get dramatic fast, and they contemplate jumping, and at some point they put the couch on its side in front of the door. I don't know what happened here. When she unlocks the door, Ronnie's trying to act tough and like he doesn't know it was a prank. I'm not sure what the objective is here, but she also pretends like it wasn't a prank. Like, I don't know what's going on with them. When they go GTL, Paula leaves a long love letter for Mike in the tanning bed, which he likes. The note's really sad, and she really likes him, and he's completely playing her out. As he shows the note to the roommates, Snooki and Mike are finally cool again for the first time in forever, so that's cool. Vinny's sick, so he can't go out, so he and Nicole go play on the mobility scooters all night. They ride down to Aztec and turn the party up majorly. While they're riding back, someone yells at them. Vinny puts his scooter in reverse and confronts him, but they barely show it, so I'm assuming there must have been a fourth wall break or something. Despite all of this, Snooki has a great night, and she and Vinny are back on good terms. The next day, the girls go to Snooki's ultrasound, and Gianni's still being cold towards Jenny after she tried to call him out at the baby shower yesterday. Snooki calls up a medium named Zen Jen to come over and freak Dean out.
Oh, okay. I actually just got chills walking by some bed over there. I don't know.
Which bed? The
I'll
little
let you know.
corner?
Yeah.
The guys take Johnny out to a cigar bar and interrogate him. He tells them about his ATM business and how he's always there for Snooki when he can be, and all this nonsense about him not being there is a lie perpetuated by Jenny. The guys are all like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And they kiss and make up and say they're brothers now. The end. Episode 12, Raining Men and Meatballs. Roger calls Jenny and confronts her about starting shit with Johnny. He says Johnny's telling him that she's going around spreading lies. Jenny tells him that he was there when she said what she said, and he backed her up on it. Which is true, but she's also been going around saying it other times. So she calls Johnny to get to the bottom of it. He tells her the same thing he told the guys yesterday, and she pretty much has the same response, like, "Oh, I did not know that." And it's like, yeah, I don't know where you got it from either. Nicole's never once complained about this. Mike reveals to everyone that he was once a stripper, and they all beg for a private show. Put a pin in that. When they go out that night, they run into Paula, who's all gussied up. She's got this dress on, these heels, her hair is all curled, and they all know that she's trying to dress up and show Mike what he's missing. But he doesn't care. He starts dancing with this girl with the gigantic boobs, but he's trying to be sneaky and shady and, like, hides whenever Paula comes around. But he's all over this girl, and she comes over and is like, "That's enough. Don't talk to me." And what he does next is what puts Mike in the wrong here, in my opinion. Because if that had happened and he had just been like, "Yeah, me and Paula are broken up. Whatever, I can dance with other girls, it doesn't matter." But what he does is go over there and go, "Baby, you know I care about you more than everyone else in this club. Like, why do you have to try to be both? Like, be the player, dog her out in front of everyone, whatever. But why chase her down and do this when you know that you don't like her at all?" And this inspires her, so she starts getting fresh with the girl Mike's with and is like, "It's okay, sweetheart, you won't see the sunlight anyways." Mike brings home that girl, and she's so wasted, she's falling all over. When she falls, he tries to catch her, and honestly, this right here might be the most cringeworthy thing that's ever happened on this show. She's way too drunk, so he sends her home. Jenny and Roger keep the house up with their smushing. The next day, Snooki and Dina hold meatball tryouts to find Dina other people to drink with. The tryout requirements are as follows. 1. Take 4 shots of SoCo Lime without throwing up, followed by a hiss. 2. Do a body shot off an old man with a mustache. 3. Wear a hat, beard, and clown shoes and wand somebody while saying MERP. Honestly, Snooki and Dina get a little drunk with power here and get just a bit too excited about how much they can make people do. Boring scene where Sam and Ron go mini golfing. Next. Dina brings her meatball recruits home with her and introduces the roommates to the most promising draft pick, a girl she calls Scotland. Because, well,
I'm trying very hard.
oh my god! And I think she's funny at first, but after a minute,
I'll make it a bad time if I go out with them, so I should probably go bed.
Big, you just need time. Just let some time pass, you'll be okay. What are you laughing at, Scotland?
Time pass, really? Time pass? Come on. It's an embarrassment, to be honest.
they're out to this club called Merge, and it's going crazy tonight. They're tearing up the dance floor. Vinny and Pauly do a rather erotic shot together. It's just a blast. The next morning, they decide that they'll celebrate the end of their final summer in the shore house with a big beach bonfire. But as a little treat for making it this far, we finally get to meet Vito Dorado, which is Mike's dancer name. He puts together a quick little routine, Pauly DJs, and he gives Jenny the lap dance of her life. Episode 13, The Icing on the Cake. We have made it to the final episode of The Jersey Shore. And I just want to say, if you've made it this far and you're still watching, I appreciate you. Shout out to you. For the last episode, it's bonfire time. Vinny and Pauly pick up firewood and walk it all the way home. They make a metric fuck ton of Ron juice, set up tables. Vinny's mom brings a buffet's worth of food. Everyone in the world comes out, except Gianni. But just then he shows up with Roger and they're each holding size proportional bouquets. The boys play a little ball and Gianni's kind of cleaning up, which has everyone rethinking their respect for him. Sam's family isn't too fond of Ron, but she tells him they're taking the next step and moving in together after the show. Oy. They do last shifts at the shore store. Sam and Jenny go tanning, where Paula left Mike and Pauly birthday cakes. It's Mike's birthday today and Pauly's birthday tomorrow. And as one last little pranky prank to get back at Sam for locking them on the roof, Vinny and Pauly steal her and Ron's air mattress and move it to another room. But Vinny accidentally pops it, bringing it up the stairs. So when they get home, Ronnie thinks the prank was letting the air out of the mattress. But when he realizes that he won't have his soft plush bed for the final night, he snaps. On Sam. Because if you think about it, in a roundabout way, everything is Sam's fault. She's confused, he's mad that she won't apologize. Mike celebrates his birthday and they watch 4th of July fireworks on the roof. And once again, you can hear the crowd of people constantly outside the house here. And I'm willing to bet that that's why, as the show goes on, you see a lot less of this rooftop deck and the hot tub, because there's always people out there and you can see it from the street. But Mike's really proud of himself for being sober on his birthday after so many birthdays spent not sober. Sam and Ron are in a legitimate fight about this prank. He wants her to apologize, but she says she hasn't done anything wrong to have to apologize for, so he breaks up with her, and he's all pissed off that she woke up today and made Mike a cake for his birthday while he was sad about his mattress, and she got up and was not miserable all day.
Get up like Prippy. I did nothing wrong. I'll get up and I'll bake a cake.
She stands up for herself and refuses to apologize, and later on, he apologizes, and they're fine now, I guess. We send off the show on a big final bang. If you've made it this far, this is your treat. They do one last GTL sesh, and when they're at the tanning salon, one of Paula's co-workers asks them if they really ate those cakes from yesterday, and shows them a photo of someone dragging their nuts across it. Paula gave them ball cake. Mike calls her fuming. And the icing on top of the cake, no pun intended, she does the oldest trick in the book and pretends like she can't hear him. And he smashes the duck phone in a fit of rage. They spend their last night on the deck reminiscing on their first days and all the moments they've shared together. And they all agree that this experience has changed their lives forever and no one will ever understand the bond that they have or what they've been through. It's the final day. Pauly wakes everyone up with his song. They have a huge breakfast and get ready to leave. Pauly asks Vinny if he ever expected to be friends with a Guido like him, and he says no.
Never judge a book by its blowout sign.
They're all emotional about leaving. They stand outside and look at the house and cry, and they say goodbye to each other and drive off emotionally.
Damn, Seaside. Goodbye. I'm gonna miss you.
Danny hangs a for rent sign on the house, and the final frames are an in memoriam to the duck phone. And that's the end of season 6. The season 6 reunion is live, and we've never seen them live before, so it's kind of awkward. It's really so weird watching them without editing. They also continued to promote the Restore the Shore fundraiser, where they were raising money for Sandy relief, which I thought was really cool. And that's pretty much it for the Jersey Shore. After the show, Snooki and Jenny continued their show, Snooki JWoww. Vinny got a short-lived talk show called The Show, where he interviewed a very diverse group of people. And the footprint the Jersey Shore has left on MTV and television as a whole has still not faded. Since its airing, there have been 10 different versions of Jersey Shore launched with different themes. There's Geordie Shore, Gandia Shore, Acapulco Shore, Warsaw Shore, Super Shore, Rio Shore, Reality Shore, All-Star Shore, Buckhead Shore, and Floribama Shore. And with how much the world loved to hate this show and how frequently its pop cultural impact was denied, this show and its cast have definitely left their mark on pop culture. This show was like absolutely nothing else that had aired on television before. These people were a powder keg. This show inspired and informs every single trashy reality television show that we watch now. It was unarguably a cultural phenomenon that has been called by many one of the most notable shows of all time. And as the world moved on from their favorite vacation crew, people turned in their V-necks for button-downs, and ladies switched their bodycon dresses for something a little more business casual. Our cast went on to maintain their relevance using the formula that reality stars now seem to know all too well. And new reality shows serve as a sort of reminder that there was once a point in time where reality TV was actually kind of real. The people who signed up to be on shows like Jersey Shore did so because they found themselves to be pretty entertaining. Not because they wanted to be a micro-influencer who shills flat-tummy teas and luxury bag giveaways, but because that's just the type of people that they were. And we messy reality TV consumers will always remember those who so graciously laid their reputations on the line for our entertainment. But what if I told you it wasn't over? In 2017, E! aired a one-off special titled Reunion Road Trip Return to the Jersey Shore, where 5 years on from the shenanigans of the original series, we pick back up with our cast to see how they've dealt with new obstacles in their life, most of which are arguably domino effects of the original show itself. This served as a sort of unofficial pilot for the 2018 series Jersey Shore Family Vacation. Now, I will not be covering the reunion series because that is just too much. That show has become a beast of its own. It's now got more than double the episodes the original show ever had. They just wrapped up their 6th season, and when I tell you I know nothing about this show, literally all I know is that Mike is apparently everyone's favorite now, Snooki has an alter ego that she calls her drunk self called Dren, and Dina and Chris are still together and everyone on Reddit loves him. But that's all I have for you today. I thank you for joining me on this journey. It was not easy. I had a lot of very long days and very long nights that consisted of nothing but Jersey Shore. I let out an involuntary aw yeah the other day. This is getting really, really dangerous for my health. I hope you liked my look. Let me give you a full view of the outfit.
Yeah, buddy. 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 Yeah, buddy.
This is all official Shore Store apparel, by the way, ordered from the Shore Store. So
yeah, buddy.
I appreciate you all more than you could ever understand. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got a lot of stuff in the works. I keep saying that, but once you see it, you'll understand. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Bye-bye.